Hello, and welcome to Revamped, a rewatch podcast that revisits my top favorite shows and movies. I'm your host, Brandon Alexander, joined by my co-host,
Courtney Autumn.
Venture with us as we set our sights on the infamous Hellmouth to cover 90s cult classic, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Follow along from the beginning, spoiler-free, as Courtney views the show for the first time and I revisit the series for new takes and a fresh perspective on its narrative.
Each season, every episode, in order, we will follow Buffy Summers and her friends to examine their character development, the show's underlying themes, along with its major story arcs, all while engaging in conversations, sharing our own authentic thoughts and feelings to what's unfolding before us.
So sharpen your stakes, load your crossbows, and join us as we explore the supernatural world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's get into the episode. Hello everyone, post-production Brandon here to give a quick message and inform you all that we will be taking off next Friday from posting an episode. I have to travel out of town to take a massage course for my continuing education, and it's kind of throwing my week a bit out of whack, and I don't have the time to record and edit. So that being said, we will not be dropping an episode on next Friday, February 28th, in hopes that I can focus on this trip and get it out of the way, and we will be back to our normal schedule with episode 8, The Dark Age, airing on March 7th, 2025. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Hey, you guys.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to another episode of Revamped. We are back today covering Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 2, Episode 7, Lie to Me. I personally am so excited to cover this one, so I think we should just jump right in, as if we have any other choice, but... This week on the Hellmouth, Buffy feels uneasy after learning about Angel's past relationship with Drusilla, and things take a turn when her childhood friend Ford unexpectedly shows up in Sunnydale. Thrilled at first, she soon discovers he has hidden motives and is involved in a cult that idolizes vampires with plans to hand the Slayer over to Spike in exchange for eternal life.
I like that you use the word cult.
That's what they were. Basically,
I mean,
a
it's
cult.
true, but yeah.
Guest stars for this episode, we have Jason Behr as Billy Fordham, aka Ford. I don't know if you ever watched it when it came on the WB. I haven't ever revisited the show, and it only had a few seasons, but it was the WB's popular sci-fi show called Roswell, and it originally aired in 1999. And he played the main role. He was a alien that had come to Earth, kind of like Superman vibes, almost like Smallville, but not really. It almost kind of had the vibe of the X-Files in a way. I couldn't tell you anything about the show because I remember not one single episode because I watched it whenever I was a kid, like 9, 10 years old, along the same journey as Buffy. And I wasn't really taking anything from it because the actor Jason, I was swooning over him. Like I had the hugest crush on him back then. I thought he was the cutest little thing. And this obviously is a couple years before that show premiered because this is still late 97. Maybe what put him on the map for the WB to have him maybe be for the show because of the fact that he had premiered once before on this, sister show. And I think it's funny because ironically, he would go on 7 years later in 2004 to co-star in the movie The Grudge alongside Sarah Michelle Gellar playing her character Karen's boyfriend, Doug. And spoiler, in that movie, he dies in that by supernatural forces as well. The Grudge.
Oh my God. I love that movie.
And then our other guest star that I want to mention is Julia Lee as Chanterelle. I have no other mentions from her in media, but there is one other show that I know her from. Wink, wink. People know if they know. I know they know. The listeners are like, I know. But yeah, those are our guest stars for the episode. And hopping right into it, Lie to Me. What did you think of the episode?
I love this episode. I think that Ford is one of my least favorite characters so far, I'll say. Because he was immediately sus to me. I was just like, clearly... I mean, we know this is like the token thing. If a newbie comes in, we know trouble is to ensue. But he just made himself so obvious to me. And I was like, for as on point as Buffy is, we're once again starting off an episode where randomly she decides to not be on point with her radar and realize that this guy's like immediately up to no fucking good. So yeah, it was interesting. Lots of reveals, lots of tension. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
I like that you point out that whenever a newbie comes in the show, which is awesome because you're already taking notice. If somebody new is introduced on the show as a character of the week or however, whatever, they're either going to die in the first 20 minutes or they're going to be a problem.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that is a valid point. Obviously, this is yet another episode that you and I were able to sit down and actually watch together right after Halloween. So not the season, the episode. Um, which I always prefer, obviously, because it's a great time. But now we've arrived at our 7th episode for this season, and I beat it into your head at this point that these are big episodes. They, reveal a whole lot to us. They actually move the whole story theme for the season on. And would you say you see how an episode like this changes the vibes from last season to now?
For sure.
Dramatically different. Last season, episode 7 was Angel. So we had a big reveal going on that episode, bigger backstory and all that. We kind of get that again this episode with Angel in ways, but for me, first, the episode is devastating and quite sinister is like the two like ways that I would describe it because
Yeah.
it's the polar opposite. You feel a lot of emotions in it. And it's one of my favorites this season. And I know I say that about basically every Buffy episode, but for this one, like Halloween and a couple others from season 2, I would watch those ones and this one regularly. I thoroughly enjoy it. As a follow up to Halloween and our previous showdown with Spike, this is bringing in, some more heat and making us wonder if Spike will succeed in taking the Slayer out once again. She's right back in a vulnerable seat because she's getting pushed into this by somebody that she's supposed to trust, which is obviously the episode whole thing is about lies.
Yeah.
And we get the backstory on Drusilla, the reveal for Angel being the one who sired her in a gruesome, tormenting ass way at that.
Yes.
Then we also have this whole issue with Ford, which we've been already minorly discussing. And what I think I love so much about this one is that it drags it out the whole episode after his reveal to be doing some shady shit. It has you hating him the whole episode. And then you end up pining for Buffy to take his ass down. After you find out this stuff, you're like, Buffy, catch him, Buffy, catch him. But then in return, he takes us down with his horrible ass reality. And I consider it to be one of the biggest gut punches, not just for the viewer, but for Buffy so long on her journey. And I'll give more on that later. But other minor things, Sean Clement and Sean Murray, they both do wonders with the score for this episode. The music carries it and brings out the emotions that we're intended to feel. It hits in all the right places and it has the right tone for every scene. I really enjoy how the music actually really plays into it and like pulls you in because if the scene was just silent, it wouldn't hit as hard,
Yeah, that's so true.
And finally, Buffy is iconic here. She is giving us exactly what a Slayer is supposed to be, a defender, a champion of good, who knows right from wrong and tries to stop all things bad. And we also have a chance to get vulnerable with her and Angel and get some pieces to them. And I mean, this is the very episode where she tells Angel that she loves him for the first time. With this episode's strong writing and impactful scenes, the exploration of its characters, and a complex story being told, I have to classify this one as a masterfully done episode of Buffy, like to say the absolute least. Because this one starts out by letting us know everything behind the scenes, turns towards being predictable after we found out about the Sunset Club's inhabitants wanting to become vampires and such. But then in the final 10 minutes, we get an unexpected twist that really creates the mastery that I'm speaking of. All I'm going to say for now is if you thought this one was intense, get ready because specifically episodes 8 through 10 are big fucking episodes. And I say that with vigor.
I know. I'm actually really excited to see where things go, especially after this, which I knew I would be because you've been like setting episode 7 up for me for a while. Like, hey, this is where you start inching to the top of the roller coaster right before you get to the good shit, And so I was like, oh shit, all right, we're almost there. So now that we're here, I'm like, what the fuck's gonna happen? Let's hurry up and watch it.
All right. Well, since we're ready to hurry up and watch it, let's head over to the Sunset Club to idolize some vampires. How about that?
Yes.
We have no Slayer prologue. This episode said there is no time to be wasted. So we open at a playground at night in Sunny D, already giving us the Wiggins. As eerie music is playing, we pan around it, arriving with a young boy, probably named Thomas, but JK because his name is James. And he's sitting on a jungle gym, and I called it a jungle James because, makes sense, the JJ. He is fed up with his mother always being late to pick him up, vocally stating to himself as such. And things are potentially about to go very south for little James as we catch a glimpse of Drusilla walking slowly up to the playground behind him, and she calls out to ask if he's lost. He moves behind the jungle James, putting some space between them as he tells her, no, my mom's supposed to pick me up is all.
I want to know what time was his mom supposed to pick him up because it is straight up dark. So I'm like, James.
Shitty parents, man.
David.
I wrote in my notes that he also off screen told her she was hanging out with her friend Joyce, and this is why she's always late. She's hanging out the gallery with her late into the evening, aka they're out back getting high. So
they had to stop at Randall's mom's house.
You mean Daryl's?
Daryl's.
Who the fuck is Randy?
Who's Randall? Daryl's mom's house. They had to stop at Daryl's mom's house. They had to
Yes. They're all over there with her. They're like, please don't be in Catatonia anymore. And she's like, who's Chris?
They got stuck watching the football game.
Oh, God. She's like, why is this always on TV?
She was like, come over for the Super Bowl. And they were like, yes. And then she has that same damn video playing. And they're like,
Oh, hell.
excuse me. This is not the Super Bowl.
I do like that you point out his mom is nowhere to be found. I'm like, who the fuck just leaves their kid out in the dark? It's in a town like Sunnydale.
Really, though.
Don't know what's going on. But
That's the best point.
thankfully, Drusilla is nice and she offers to walk him home, but he denies her politely. She goes on to tell him about her mother singing her to sleep at night for no absolute reason. And she's like starting to sing.
The lamb is caught in the blackberry patch. Share the sweetest voice.
Just so you know, if you didn't know it, you the lamb. Drusilla's made her way to stand a few feet in front of him, and he's rightfully becoming spooked by this lady, who to him is giving stranger danger. And if not, he definitely is when she next asks, what will your mommy sing when they find your body? Holy fuck, though. This quote always makes me feel uneasy when I hear it, even to this day, because we don't often see kids in the line of danger. And he doesn't fully know what she's saying to him, because I think she says it in such a way where he's just like, huh? But we know as the audience what she's saying. And I remember even when she said it, I looked over at you and you were like even taken aback by it. You're like, like.
No, seriously. I was like, the audacity. Damn.
He tells her that he's not supposed to talk to people, taking steps to back away. And she informs him, well, that's just fine because she's not a person. And I was like, oh, fuck. Right before she's about to grab his ass, Angel steps in between them and looks to James to tell him to run the fuck home, to which he does. And the two exchange convo about her mom's song and how he remembers it. Then he tells her she and Spike need to get out of town. He's only offering this chance once. She counteracts with, or you'll hurt me, but then says, no, he can't anymore. If you didn't catch this, it is a foreshadow to what we learn later about how he tortured her and such on her journey to becoming a vampire at the hands of Angel. This is a telling phrase stating not anymore, acknowledging that what he did to her and how it was the worst of the worst. Now that she's dead, he can't do that anymore. You know, for me, I immediately, when I was writing this, I was thinking about the Ten of Swords energy about like no more pain can happen after this. You know how the Ten of Swords looks on the tarot card, all them knives piercing that person's back and he's laying there dead as fuck. I was like, that was Drusilla after Angel went from the first sword in the deck all the way to the 10. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Like if I could create that imagery in your head,
Yeah.
like I was like, oh shit. I was like, well, that makes sense. And what are the tarot swords suit all about? Mental energy. And he says that he devised every mental torture that he could on her before making her a vampire later. So it's very interesting that she says this before we get that reveal later. Drew goes on to mention her dear boy has gone all away to the Slayer and how his heart stinks of her. Us seeing Buffy out patrolling, walking across a rooftop as she speaks this, appearing to be right near them, looking down into the playground to see the two standing together, and Drusilla stroking Angel's chest as she tells him, poor little thing, she has no idea what's in store. He tells her that this can't go on, it's gotta end, and she whispers close to his face,
Oh no, my pet. This is just the beginning.
pulling away and walking away from him. Buffy, having witnessed the whole interaction, backs away off screen as we fade to black and we cue the Buffy theme. Bow, now, now, now.
Oh.
This opening scene where Buffy just happens to be on the rooftops is very interesting to me. What is she doing up there, first off? Does she just like often scout the land for activity? Like, I just think it's very convenient that she's up there.
I keep seeing a theme of Urbex in Buffy now, and I can't get rid of it in my head. Like, my head instantly goes there, and I'm just like, look at Buffy Urbexing. What ladder did she use? How did she know where to go? I need instructions from her. Did she just, like, levitate up and jump up on the building, and did people see her? Did she climb? I need to know.
Yeah,
but,
true.
Yeah, who knew? She's a Urbexer.
Listen, there's a lot of chances and opportunity with all the, like, creepy abandoned places we get into.
You're really right. The cemetery primarily is already a thing.
The eternal slumber Urbex. The field of dead. You know, the dead bodies.
The haunted Urbex.
I also wanted to note, though, like in that scene, it kind of sucks because from her point of view, it looks like Angel and Drusilla are being way more intimate than they actually are being.
100%.
From her point of view, she's seeing her stroke his chest, and then when she leans in and kind of like tilts her head to the side to whisper ominous bullshit to his face, it kind of looks like they're kissing, maybe.
Angel didn't help his own situation later when confronted with questions, so...
Well, the episode's called Lie to Me, so he had to lie to somebody. Somebody's got to be
lying.
lying. All the men are lying this episode, and all the women are telling the truth, apparently.
Shocking.
Not really. Anyways.
I know, sarcasm.
But either, yeah, and I mean, that's what I said too. Like, Angel was just like looking like he's being shady, so Buffy's already like, So then we flash over to school the next morning, and Giles and Jenny are roaming around the school as he's trying to get her to tell him the location of her surprise date night tomorrow at 7:30. Apparently, Jenny's planned a date for them, and I loved it too because I was like, "Oh, Jenny's back!" Like we didn't get to see her last
I
episode.
literally put that in my
Uh,
notes. I was like, yes, Miss
like,
Carpenter.
what do we think Jenny was doing on Halloween? Like pagan practices, like reading up on occult magic on her computer or something,
She was
practicing
doing her
Samhain ritual.
techno-paganism.
I figured. But either way, Jenny won't tell him what she's got planned, and he's like, "How will I know what to wear?" And she looks at his fit, and she's like, "Do you own anything else besides this shit?" Oh,
Good
fuck.
point.
Cute moments too, because they're all giggly together in the halls, and I'm like, "Oh, this is setting up some great stuff." Again, we like get to see their dynamic as well, and she assures him to trust her, and he finally does put himself in her hands, to which she thinks sounds like fun, and she makes that little like comment to him, and he like smirks after that. Wait
I
till
love
next
her.
episode.
Do you
They
think she's an Aries?
have to ponder perception. I could see her being an Aries. Because of her dark features and stuff, I kind of almost get Scorpionic like vibes from her.
That
Like
would
a
make
little bit of
sense.
Scorpio vibes.
Only a Scorpio would be a techno-pagan.
Anybody that usually has dark eyes and those kind of features, I typically always want to guess that they're a Scorpio. Half the time I'm wrong. But no, I could see Aries. I could also see Aquarius for some reason too, just because she's like out there in her thinking and stuff and a little bit more of an innovative nature.
hmm
But I could see Aries as well, especially with her like her retorts that she's always making, always smart assing and shit like that too.
hmm
Like the
I didn't think
sarcasm.
it until she was like, "Where's your sense of adventure?" to Giles of all people, and I was like, first off, you can't screen this man properly. He doesn't dress like he's in for an adventure, so you should know.
Yep.
And secondly, why are you all about the adventure? Are you an Aries?
Yes. All right, it's
Yes.
canon now. Jenny is an Aries. The two part ways, and Giles is greeted by a bummed looking Buffy as they walk off together. Him asking her about the hunt the night before, and she claiming that there was no vampire action. Giles informs her then that he's still been researching Spike and how everything turning up is fairly unappetizing, but not being able to figure out why he's come here. She assures him that he will figure it out, and he calls out her glum attitude, and she gives him the "I'm fine" that we all do when we're indeed not fine. And he offers her the night off, and this actually makes her perk up some until he's like, "You could spend some time with Angel." And her glum look comes back on her face again, and she's like, he might have other plans," and then heads off to class. And I was like, you ever notice how this seems to always happen in life when you're feeling some type of way or some sort of energy is around you, and people be calling shit out like that you're trying to avoid or that you have on your
hmm
mind almost unknowingly, because most of the time they don't know about it, like here with Giles, because normally that's exactly what Buffy would rather be doing than going on patrol and stuff, but except right now she's feeling some type of way, and this is the one time Giles is going to be like, "Oh, you should take the night off and be with Angel," and she's like, on
Literally.
opposite day, that's how I'm feeling like I should be doing, you know? It's like the universe
Literally.
is fucking with you.
Every time.
I did want to note too that Giles is applying some of the energy that we saw that both Buffy and mostly Willow gave him in Reptile Boy, because in this instance, it appears that he's being a tad more lenient and understanding to her normal side of life than he was beforehand,
Mm.
especially with all the added pressure. So I wanted to note it as like some personal growth on Giles' part towards his development. In said class, the teacher is giving a lesson involving Marie Antoinette as we see the most in high school shit ever. Willow and Buffy exchanging a paper writing notes in class. Damn, take me back. I miss doing this. I was always caught
Literally.
though.
You were not a discreet note passer.
There
Brandon
were-
be over there dropping the paper in the middle of the floor.
No, it would be more so like the teacher just happened to look up whenever I was trying to actually do it. And I'm like, normally pretty sly, but I've definitely had to go up to the front of the classroom and read out a damn paper. You know, like they're like, "Why don't you
Oh,
read your whole note to
no.
the class?" I'm
Oh,
like, fuck.
no.
Regardless, they are conversing in their notes about Drusilla and Angel the night before, Buffy describing her and calling Drew pretty. We need to remember in this moment, too, that Buffy has not seen or heard of Drusilla before, only Spike. And Cordy, in this dialogue with her teacher, we're seeing her and Xander kind of like talk along with the teacher, and she's like talking about like let them have cake and all that stuff. And the conversation was reminding me of like her conversation in Miss Davis's classroom and Out of Mind, Out of Sight, when she's like having a warped perspective on things again. And I was just like, Cordelia, you just need to stop raising your
Yes.
hand in class, because everybody is like, God damn, why is Cordelia talking?
I literally wrote in my notes, Cordy would speak in class when she shouldn't.
I wrote in my notes that I had a fashion watch because I love Willow's sage green outfit here. Her green top was really cute. And then I also read that they weren't being very sly because I was surprised the teacher didn't call Willow to the front to read her a little note out loud to the class because, you know, in real life, that's what would be happening. And I was like, don't call Willow up there because we already know this bitch is high key afraid of presentation or getting up in front of an audience and talking on cue
Yes.
like that. If she was giving a presentation to the class on a history lesson, she would be like aces. You know what I mean?
If she
But if
needed to
it's
get up
like,
in front of the class and use the computer, it would be good to go.
right. But if you get her up there in that instance, she's going to not be able to lie in the moment until she's going to like run out the classroom.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And along their note passing, Willow passes the note back as the bell rings, and we see the word vampire with a question mark as we transition out into the halls, exiting class. They're able to actually speak on this, and Buffy tells Willow that she doesn't know who it was, but they seemed very friendly. Xander asking who, and Buffy trying to exclude him from the conversation when Willow blurts out, "Angel and a girl." I was like, ooh. Because Buffy is like, can we not enter full share mode? She's like, so butt out, Xander. Who just wants to know because if Angel's doing something wrong, it gives him a happy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, as usual. This is what we get from Xander, but whatever. Xander offers a happy craze dance night at the Bronze to cheer Buffy's sour mood up, but she's not having it, which, you know, equates to moping at the Bronze. And they all arrive at the lounge to chill for a bit as Xander is disheartened when we see a boy that we've not seen before walk up behind Buffy, offering that he would suggest Oreos dunked in apple juice, but kiss ass, Buffy is over that phase. Oreos dipped in apple juice? What? Honestly, surprisingly, every single time I watch this episode, I forget to go buy a pack of Oreos and some apple juice because I love the two separately. And I was like, let me go ahead and dunk up my shit so I can act like I'm trying to understand what's in Buffy's head, you know, why she would be doing this when she was younger. I don't really get that pair going together. I love me some apple juice, I'm gonna just say. And I like some Oreos too. I don't ever really buy them,
Same.
but still, like, I'm like,
No, it
what is
doesn't.
Buffy thinking? People
It
drunk it in
doesn't
milk.
sound like something you need a couple together. Like it just doesn't.
It sounded like to me, oftentimes Joyce was out at the grocery store high as balls and she forgot to pick up milk. Or, you know, Buffy's dad ran out to go get the milk and never came back, obviously. So Joyce only had apple juice boxes.
Either that or Joyce is so high and she has the munchies, and you know you'd be putting weird shit together when you're high and thinking anything is a good idea. So Buffy probably saw her put some Oreos in apple juice and she was like, this is how we do it. And now she doesn't know any better.
No, it's Buffy's got contact high from her mom smoking inside the house and Buffy's in there.
So they're both thinking this is delicious. Like,
Yeah.
this is like the best snack ever. Snack food, as
Shit.
Xander would say.
I love it. Oh my God. Okay, well, Buffy spins around getting super excited, exclaiming, "Oh my God," calling him Ford, grabbing his hands, asking what he's doing there. And then we can already get a gauge on their intimate relationship, not like intimate in that way, but that they're close enough as friends to like hold hands while they're having this exchange. I noticed that was very on point. He claims that his dad got transferred, so he's spending his senior year at Sunnydale High. And I was like, boy, you do not want to be here spending no senior high because it means you're going to
Totally.
die. Literally, though. Joking about how Buffy probably forgot all about him. And she's like, no, speaking on how they went to school together in LA for 7 years and how he was her giant 5th grade crush. And I like this because we get a little bit of Buffy's backstory and a little character from her past because she says that they both went to Emory together. Xander, having enough of this reaction, shouts out, "So you two know each other?" And I love this because Buffy facing him and Willow, she's like, "Oh yeah, these are my friends." Introductions are made and they speak on their past and kind of inform them. And Willow's asking about them dating in 5th grade, but that didn't happen because Ford was a manly 6th grader who wouldn't give Buffy the time of day and caused her to mope for weeks on end listening to that sad Divinal song, "I Touch Myself," which she had no idea what the song was even about. If you didn't know, the song is about masturbation, everybody listening. So 100%.
As
It's
if
called
it's
"I
not
Touch
clear.
Myself." I mean, it's very clear now. Buffy invites Ford out with them to the Bronze tonight by telling him that he is coming, and he acts polite to ask Willow and Xander if he would be imposing. And I like this comment from Xander because he's just like, "Oh, no, only in the literal sense."
It's
I
literally one of my quotes.
Is it?
Yes.
I remember when we were watching this and you busted out laughing when he said it. That's funny. Buffy leaves with Ford to take him to the admissions as Xander sarcastically snarks out loud,
"This is Ford, my bestest friend of all my friends. Geez, doesn't she know any fat guys?"
and Willow's behind him looking blank face. And then we get the grand epiphany when she's like, "Oh, that's what that song is about." Willow, dear sweet Willow, is all I wrote for her. And I was like, fashion out, by the way, police, come on, get Ford in this hideous ass orange sweater V-neck vest that he's wearing because it was not giving the vibes. Anyways, Also, I wanted to comment too on the fact that Xander makes the comment about how Buffy doesn't know any fat guys. And I was just like, that didn't age well, and it isn't a good look because it's suggesting that fat people aren't worthy of attention and likable energy. Kind of giving out energy from the pack because they laugh at that kid, like him and the hyena crew in the bronze in the beginning of the episode after they first get changed. He's like, "What? Kid's fat?" Because they asked that kid to get up. They're like, "Why are you in our seat, Michelin man?"
Mhm.
Like, you remember all that?
Yeah.
So this is the second time Xander's brought up in a retort about some fat people, and I'm like, you need to do
Yeah,
better,
and he's
buddy.
also basically indicating that he wouldn't be jealous at all, so he wouldn't feel, like, threatened or any of that if that was the only circumstance that was different, and I'm like, "But your personality still sucks, so, like, a fat person could come around, and their personality would still outshine you, so, I mean, you got bigger problems, my
That's
friend."
what I'm saying. Shit.
Sorry, Xander.
Well,
Mm.
getting back into the episode, later that night, Buffy arrives at the Bronze to find Ford playing pool with Willow and Xander, him saying it wasn't hard to find the Bronze. Willow happily telling Buffy about Ford's story of her and the ninth grade beauty contest and how there was a swimsuit competition. And a little fun fact here, Sarah Michelle Gellar, her role as Helen Shivers, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, they have a pageant contest in that movie with a swimsuit category. And that's actually the outfit that she's in when she gets crowned, ironically enough. And that movie premiered in October of 1997, a month before this episode aired. So I'm assuming that they were like wrapping this episode up whenever that movie's production was going to come out. And they put this as a little nod to Sarah Michelle Gellar's role in
Mhm.
that movie. I don't know if anybody else has ever noticed that, but I did. But, Buffy is like, Ford, you need to shut the fuck up or I'll kill you. And he retorts that she can't touch him as he knows all her darkest secrets. And then we get a great quote from Xander because he's like asking if he cares to make a small wager on that. Buffy nudging him, going to grab a drink, telling Ford not to share anymore. Over at the refreshment bar, Buffy runs into Angel, who was hoping that she would show, who oddly has a drink cup in his hand. And I was like, are you trying to blend in or are you just having like a Coca-Cola? They don't serve blood here. So why are you out here buying drinks at the bar? Also, where are you getting the money? Did you like mug someone or you just got like a savings account since you've been so old? Like, what is happening? He's out here trying to pay with money and it's like a 1700s coin. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, there's
Just
so many questions.
stupid little things whenever Angel's out and about because he was just like here. And I love how every time she approaches him, he's got to like have that turnaround moment where he's like, oh, you're here. And like we were just
I
up there with
also
your back.
wanna
Why didn't you walk
know,
over to the pool table?
you brought up a good point in my mind because he was having, like, cappuccinos last time, and I'm like, does caffeine affect vampires?
They
He
can
can just be I guess he can actually be getting away with drinking that at 11 PM at the Bronze on a Thursday night because,
gonna be
number
up all
1,
night.
he don't got school tomorrow, and number 2, he's 104, and number 3, he ain't got no damn heart.
104. He's 240.
He's a 204? I meant 104 plus 100.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And 20.
Yeah.
Well, over at the pool table, Willow tells Ford that that's Angel as they're all watching their interaction. Xander happily telling him that he's Buffy's beau, her special friend. Him commenting on the fact that he looks older than Buffy, and Xander's like,
You're not wrong.
Can't.
and these are the moments I love Xander. And Buffy and Angel's convo, she's asking him about what he did last night, and he just blatantly lies to tell her nothing. And she does that thing what we all do when we know what they don't know that we know, asking nothing at all. And she's like, you cease to exist. And I was like, ooh, her face here. I was like, boy, you better tell the truth. And I honestly noticed it in this situation too, like with Buffy's face and this whole energy, you can definitely tell her zodiac sign in this scene because it is screaming at your face. Like, don't really think too hard about it because we still gotta wait till season 4 to hear her reveal it.
Damn it, then don't do
But
that. Don't breadcrumb me.
gotta have the breadcrumbs, mate. Got a whole loaf coming your way. All right, anyways, he claims that he stayed in and read, and she just gives him a disheartened O and leaves him to walk back over to the pool table. Not thirsty anymore, Angel follows her, and Willow says hey to him, causing Buffy to introduce the two men, staging a cold-ass handshake to Ford. To which he states as such, ooh, cold hand. Xander comes in with that second time.
You're not wrong.
I want to note, too, that this was the first time that we've ever heard about Angel's cold body. Of course, we know this because, whatever. But it makes me think of Twilight whenever she's in the car with Edward for the first time. She goes, like, I don't know, touch the AC or whatever, cut the music up, and their fingers touch. And she's like, his fingers are cold. And then she has that flashback later. She's like, his hands are cold. He does this. And he's like, you know what I am. I'm a vampire. Blah, blah, blah. You've seen the movie. You've all seen the movie.
Please put the clip in there.
I should. I will.
Your skin is pale white and ice cold. Your eyes change color. And sometimes you speak like you're from a different time. You never eat or drink anything. You don't go out in the sunlight. I know what you are.
Say it. Out loud. Say it.
Vampire.
Do you remember the recording for Angel whenever I put the Buffy on the Segway and I played the Twilight theme music for Bella's Lullaby? I was like, this is what they listen to on the way to Buffy's house. It's like,
Perfect.
yeah. Anyways, Angel questions his new status in town. Well, Willow asks if Angel wants to play with them. Angel playing pool, okay. But Buffy, wanting to get away from all this, claims that it's getting a bit crowdy in there, aka she doesn't want to be around Angel, so she offers a walk for her and Ford. They leave, and Xander comments to Angel and Willow on the obvious tension. Angel asking if he just moved here, and Xander proclaiming yes, and how he moves indeed fast. Willow looking down to set the pool balls, offering that Angel can still stay and play with them if he wants, looking up to find that Angel has disappeared, and she claims,
See, you made him do that thing where he's gone.
it was really funny when the show kind of calls this type of shit out, and it's funnier because it's Willow saying this. I'm just like,
Yes.
oh my God. Outside, walking away from the bronze, Ford asks Buffy about her and Angel dating. He's like, so is that your boyfriend? And she's like, no, maybe. And I'm like, damn, this is where we all sitting at with this relationship. She's at war with herself, and she asks him to lay off the tough questions, and he apologizes and changes the subject to ask that what she does for fun around there, as we hear some scuffling and crashing nearby. And this is what Buffy does for fun around here because it's not really fun. Buffy, assuming that it's those things that go bump in the night, claims that she left her purse in the bronze, which she did not bring to the bronze at all. So he's about to go back. Well, he didn't even make it back in there, but I'm like, he's going to go in there and be like, where's her purse? Where's her purse? And I guess that was her plan, because he's going to be in there forever looking for her purse while she's taking care of this problem. And she's like, do it very quick, run fast. And she runs towards the sounds disappearing around the corner as we hear a vampire growl, and Ford stops running and hears a girl crying. She runs past him in the direction that Buffy went. And then he slowly starts to approach the area when a trash can comes flying through the air, startling him. We can now hear the fighting as he comes around the corner's edge and sees Buffy battling a vampire, staking it, and Ford witnessing the 𝑘𝒂𝒄 slay. And I was like, Ford, at least you got a 𝑘𝒂𝒄 slay, and it wasn't a fucking off-screen slay. And I really like the slay itself here. I like when she stakes him and the vampire goes falling back into the wall and his body explodes in front of the wall. Like, it was just a really cool effect. He asks her what's going on, and she turns around, hiding her stake behind her, to say,
there was a cat here, and then there was another cat, and they fought the cats, and then they left.
it was funny. I was like, this is how you cover up your shit, Buffy? No, this is not
I
gonna
thought
work.
that was interesting because she was so smart to be like, oh, my purse, go get it, and like you pointed out, this bitch didn't come in with no purse, so you had to like think of that pretty quickly as a reason to send this man go searching for something aimlessly. But then like you don't have a pre-thought out excuse in advance knowing you're likely going to end up in a situation like the one you're in right now. Like, I would have already had an excuse made up, like, what am I going to do if someone ever sees me in the middle of this, and how am I going to explain it? Like, she was like, I'm just going to give this the bare minimum because he saw everything.
She got all them times when she's patrolling in the graveyards, or all the time at night, to
When
be
she's
thinking
crying
up
over Angel.
all of these things that she could be using as a pretense to like be like, if this ever happens, that's what I would be doing. My ADD ass mind would be like having all the scenarios. Like, I got scenarios for whenever I get pulled over by cops, which never happens. If I get in trouble. I mean, I was a good, this episode being all about lie to me, I was a good ass liar when I was a kid. I can flip something the script real quick. If we get caught doing something we ain't supposed to be doing, I'm gonna wrap up something real quick to make it sound like we were supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? Either way, he doesn't believe her bullshit, and he's like,
Oh, I thought you were just slaying a vampire.
and she's like,
What? Wedding a what?
he claims that he knows about her being the Slayer, and he has been trying to find the right way to bring it up ever since he got there. So I had to like comment on Buffy Fashion Watch. You can't see it till she fights the vampire, but she's wearing a long jacket covering up what I spotted to be a short dress and knee-high boots. We haven't seen those very often this season. So I was like, call back to season 1. We love these fits for Buffy. I was like, but why you got this long ass jacket over it when it's 98 degrees in fucking Sunnydale? Don't understand. He's there in a t-shirt and she's out here wearing a full length jacket. She's just doing it for the looks. I'd also like to point out, in this scene is where the episode is flipped over. We would expect another episode similar to Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, where Buffy's hiding her Slayer side from him. But through this reveal, we are already clued in that something is off here. How did Ford find out that she was the Slayer, or about vampires for that matter? And I wonder if like he had this interest in them beforehand, because obviously we see later on in the episode, he knows the quotes to the Dracula movie. He's very into vampires, to have found this club that's idolizing vampires, you know, the cult. And like he gets wrapped up in all that. So I was like, did he find out about this or do research whenever he got his diagnosis and wanted to research further, and then landed in this place where he found out that vampires were real, or like found some, like saw them feeding or something? Some instance happened in Los Angeles, you know what I mean, to bring him to now. But I was like, how did he find out about Buffy specifically though? Because there's one girl in all the
Why did
world.
she never ask him that?
I mean, I guess it's off screen, because whenever she's talking to Willow in a minute, she's just like saying that, you know, he said he found out whenever she got booted from Hemry and stuff. So I'm like, there's just
That
some stuff
doesn't
that's
explain
missing. It
anything.
doesn't at all.
So
And
you're saying everyone in LA knows?
no, just Ford.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
just
Like,
don't
I would have been
understand.
asking way more questions if I was Buffy, and that would have immediately put him on my radar. Like, nah.
Yeah, and hopefully he had like the time to sit there and think about it, like she should have been doing about cats and stuff, to actually be like, oh, well, I found out this way, this way, this way. I mean, they chalk it up that it just made sense, you know? So, I mean, obviously we can't argue it too much, because we'd be sitting here in the episode for extra 45 minutes trying to get all these extra scenes and stuff. But
That's probably why they did it that way. They couldn't figure out how to work it in properly. So they were like, let's just keep it vague and move on.
100%. Well, we cut over to Willow's bedroom, and she's laying on her bed in her jammies on the phone with Buffy. Ooh, Willow's room. Finally, we get to see it like on a bigger scale, because we saw it a little bit whenever Fritz kidnapped her in I, Robot You, Jane. I love Willow, Buffy, normal life gal pal telephone sesh that we're getting in this scene, because Buffy had to call Willow like at first beat of her getting in the door at home to distribute this hot gossip. She was like, I can't wait to tell anybody else tomorrow or anything like that. Like, I got to call Willow right now and let her know. I was like, you couldn't just go back in the bronze and talk to her about it real quick? She's like, no, Angel's in there. I can't. But I like the interaction. And along the phone call, obviously, she's telling her about her and Ford's interaction, saying that he told her that he found out right before she got booted from their old school. And then they find this neat, because she doesn't have to constantly worry about him finding out her, you know, dark secret. And it just makes everything easier, or so we would hope to believe. And we find out that this is, in fact, not the case, and some cutscene transition magic, as we see Ford wandering down an alleyway alone late into the night, arriving at a metal door knocking to gain entry. Once inside, we see a chill space that's giving late 90s vibes of gothcore meets Blade meets Bar from Queen of the Dams, you know, like everything.
All the things.
But honestly, I kind of want to hang out here, because they got the mood. I like the lighting in here and like the
Me too.
setup. It's like a cooler space in the bronze. Like I would probably be caught here before I'd be caught at the bronze. And I was like, you know, they play a lot of Deftones down there. Like 100%. Whenever Ford gets inside, he is greeted by a cloaked guy named Marvin. Oh, oops, I mean Diego, who's asking him about how his night went, asking, so when are they going to ... But Ford cuts him off to say soon. Diego, worrying about the lease that's about to end on this place he's apparently paying for, as Ford takes out a prescription bottle and takes down some pills, telling him everything is going to be fine. Then a pasty blonde girl who looks like the hotter version of Darla walks up to him, handing him a chalice to drink from. Ooh, is this fruit punch? I was like, because all these people down here want to have fruit punch mouths. Ford tells Diego just to be ready when he says, commenting true believers only. The girl saying she can't wait. Diego wants to be in on the plan, but Ford needs trust, proclaiming that in a couple of days, they will get to do the two things every American teen should have their chance to do.
Die young. And stay pretty.
Looking up to the TV that is playing the classic version of the film Dracula, as Ford lip syncs the words from the film as the scene plays out, clearly knowing the film by heart and letting us know that these kids intend to become vampires, and it puts it all right there on the table. Now we know that Ford's up to some weird stuff, and we're just like, oh, he wants to be a vampire, and everybody else in this room wants to be a vampire. Back in her room, Willow brushes her hair as she hears a knock on her door, and a homegirl getting ready for bed, and she has a full face of makeup on. I noticed that she has more makeup on than usual in general, calling back obviously probably to Halloween last episode. And now she's been dolling herself up more because she's a little bit more confident and like being out there. And I was like, Willow, you out here brushing your hair and got your nightie on in these ugly ass elephant slippers. And you ain't take the time to go get a fucking makeup wipe from your bathroom and wipe your makek off your face if you're getting ready for bed. They're like, no, she's in this scene, so we got to have her look hot in it. You know, Angel come into her bedroom and all. I was like, oh God.
They're like, if Angel's got makeup on, she's got to have makeup on.
Yes. I do also want to point out, too, that her room connects to a side door to the house, apparently, as well. We didn't see that the last season, and I think that wasn't even a thing, and they just all of a sudden decided to make that a thing. Because here it is.
They're like, let's add it on.
Very convenient, though, but she looks out the blinds to find that Angel is standing there, Opening the door to ask what he is doing there, he says that he wanted to talk to her, and she's like, "Oh, okay," and steps back a couple of steps to like let him gain entry into the room, and he just stands there stating that, "I can't come in unless you invite me." And then she announces, "Oh, okay, well you can," turning around to actually let him in. Noticing her bra on the bed and scurrying to grab it out of sight. I thought that was like the cutest little Willow moment. He apologizes if this is a bad time because clearly he noticed her pulling off the bra off the bed. And she's like, "Oh, no, you're good. I'm just not supposed to have boys in my room." And he innocently laughs. And then honestly, he makes her feel so assured. He's like, "I promise to behave myself." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "Willow, he wasn't about to do nothing with you. You need to calm the fuck down." He does inform her that he needs help. And she's like on homework? And she's like, "Wait, no, because you're old and already know stuff." And he asks Willow to track someone down on the internet. And she's very happy to do so, being the net girl and all. He claims he wants everything that she can find, records, affiliates, whatever turns up. And Willow asking, "Okay, what's the name you want me to search?" "Billy Fordham." And Willow's like,
Angel, if I say something you really don't want to hear, do you promise not to bite me?
and it's like, "Oh, you think Angel's gonna bite you if he gets mad?" Like, he's not that kind of vampire, but clearly they don't know this yet. He smirks, asking if she's gonna tell him that he's jealous, and she claims that he does get that way. Xander. Sorry. He goes on to say how he used to not get that way as she researches, going on about his years alone and how he really honed in on his brooding skills before Buffy came along. So yeah, he gets jealous. Him also saying he has a gut feeling about Ford being the wrong kind of guy. Willow confirms that she will help him, but if there isn't anything weird, immediately finding something weird, stating that he's not in the school records, no registrations or anything. And Angel says, "Didn't he tell you that he had enrolled?" And then we hear Willow's mom call out, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, Willow's mom actually exists." We don't get to see her, but we hear her. And she
I
asks
was
if
sad about that. I was excited to see Willow's mom. I was like, "Ooh, what does she look
she's
like?"
going to
And
come
then
in the
she
door.
never came in.
I know, right? I figured she would come in after Angel. And she asks if Willow is still up, and Willow jumps up, scurrying Angel out of the room, claiming that she will keep looking into Ford and that he can come back the next night at sunset to check up on her findings, and him urging her not to tell Buffy about this. And she's like, "You want me to lie to Buffy?" She's like, "It's Buffy." He's like convincing her to just not bring it up, and then he leaves. And then we flash over to the next day at school where Buffy is walking with Ford, calling out to Willow, who is drinking water from the fountain. And then she's like, "Oh shit, I got to get the fuck out of here." She tries to redirect her course instantly and hopes to avoid Buffy. Her face looking worried as fuck also. And Buffy invites her to lunch with her and Ford. And Willow says, "I can't do that just now. I need to go to do work in the computer lab." And she says it like all jumbly, and she's like really fucking nervous. And she's acting shifty as fuck, saying "hey" worriedly to Ford. And Buffy's like, "Okay, Will, fess up." And then Willow's like, "Oh, fuck, I've been caught." And she's like, "What?" And Buffy's asking her if she's been drinking coffee again. And she's like, "Because we've talked about this." And Willow looks over at fucking Ford nervously again. She's like,
It makes me jumpy.
and then she's like, "I need to go now." Willow leaves, and Ford's like, "Nice girl." I was like, he low-key thinking Buffy's friends out here tweaking. Have you ever watched South Park at all? Like, do you know who Tweak is?
Yes, of
Like,
course.
Willow was giving Tweak in this scene, like, 100%. And Giles appears before them, telling Buffy of his next date with Miss Calendar, the one that, he has no idea about, and gives Buffy the phone number of her beeper thingy. I'm like, "Giles, you don't know this is called a beeper now? Buffy had one last season. Like, what is happening?" But he gives her the number just in case she needs to reach him, looking over to Ford and being like, "In case of sudden study help." And I was like, Y'all, all these people, everybody knows Buffy makes Fs in school. So, like, nobody ain't studying here." And she informs Giles that Ford already knows about her being the Slayer. And Giles gets worried and he pulls Buffy to the side. And he's like, "You're not betraying your secret to impress cute boys, are you?" And she's like, "No, I didn't tell him. He knew." And she assures that she will try not to have a crisis. And then they part ways, her telling him to have fun on his date. Later that night, Buffy has been giving Ford a tour on the town, concluding back in front of the high school since he's now seen all of Sunnydale. Hopefully, she took him by the museum, the zoo, and since he knows about slayers and vampires, this tour also included the master's dwelling so he could get a eye of the pool of blood that's just chilling in the floor. Because you got to show him that. You can't leave that out. If he knows about the vampires, you got to show him the biggest vampire spot in town. He jumped in and all the blood was all over him. And she's like, "Oh, you're good to go." Uh, well, he claims the town is dull, as Buffy suggests. when they notice two people running alongside the school looking sketchy, him asking if those are more vampires, Buffy handing him a cross, retrieving her stake as he pulls out one out of his own pocket. And I'm like, bro, you just carrying around a stake? I was like, mm-hmm. But he
So,
came prepared. The two head over there and he suggests that they were just passing through. Buffy doesn't think so, though, as a vampire chick attacks her from behind, Buffy kicking her and the other vampire male attacking her, knocking the two over a railing to a lower area of the school. Leaving Ford with the chick who's on the ground, he moves over to her, pushing his cross into her face and stake to her chest, saying, she has one chance to live. Tell me what I want to know and I'll let you go. Down below, Buffy slays the dude with the off-screen dusting, running back up to Ford, who starts fake coughing when she asks where'd the girl go, him stating, I killed her and she just turned to dust, quoting the experience as amazing to a puzzled looking Buffy. I'm like, this reveal, first off, we're quickly clued in and clicked in as to how exactly and in ways why Ford already knows about vampires. He has an agenda, you know.
yeah, for sure. I didn't know where it was going, to be honest with you. They do a good job dragging it out for most of the episode. And just when you think that there can't be any more, like, suspicion around this situation, more suspicion comes, and you're just like, wait, what the fuck is going on? But this part in particular excited me because I felt like it was finally the moment where Buffy was going to be clued in a way where she couldn't ignore what was obvious to the rest of us, you know? So I was like mostly excited because you could see her, like you said, her confusion was written all over her face when she approached the situation. She was like, but what happened? You know? And he's obviously being so like extra with his response on top of it. But anyway, it excited me and I was just like, finally, we're at the moment where Buffy's going to have her radars up and she's going to finally start asking herself more questions about this whole interaction, his return into her life, all the things. So I was really here for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's cool too, like the fact that she's puzzled in this way. I'm sure she didn't have the easiest task of slaying her first few vampires. And for the fact that he's like, oh, I just slayed her like that. You know, she's
Mm-hmm.
like, you just took on a vampire. Like, but yeah, I took Xander and Willow and everybody else out before, like with me, or they've been in these instances where they can't even handle vampires. And you fucking just happened to take on one by yourself and like you staked and killed her. Like it just,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it raises an awareness around the conception of everything. If anything, even if it's not fully on her radar yet, like her spidey sense or slayer sense is
Mm,
totally starting to tingle a little bit. It's the
totally.
tiniest little vibratory, but it's happening. There's stimulation. Yes.
Yes.
Well, in the alleyway leading to the underground vamp cult club, Angel walks with Willow and Xander, saying that this is the address that came up that they could track down, a place called the Sunset Club. Dead Boy, Angel, suggests that no trail and records is incriminating enough. They arrive at the door knocking for entry, claiming to the man guarding that they are friends of Ford. And he's just like, all right, come on right in. We know Ford. We love Ford. He's going to help us become vampires. When this scene opened up, I noticed a color theme happening. Because if you didn't, I've never noticed it before. So I got on Google and I started going crazy. Ford appears in orange in that vest whenever he first appears in the episode. Willow, her nightgown that she's wearing in the room with Angel, it's white and has orange sleeves. And now
Mm-hmm.
Xander's walking up into this club with him and he's wearing an orange button-up shirt. So I
Yeah,
was just like,
totally.
what is happening here? That being said, took to the net to search negative meanings of the color because it's definitely not the positive vibes flowing here. And
No.
the negative connotations to orange are one being arrogance, which the word arrogant refers to an individual who has an exaggerated sense of their own importance, abilities, or worth, often showing lack of consideration or respect for others. Does that not scream spot on for Ford?
Yes.
But orange is also a color like red that warns us of danger. Red being the ultimate alert, yellow and orange are often, which, yellow and red are the combination that makes
Like
orange. It's a
warnings.
warning of approaching danger. You
Yeah.
want to slow down and be ready for something whenever that happens. Another word to describe orange's affiliation and representation is desolation. In horror, orange can represent desolation along with hopelessness and the loss of sanity. And my final meaning is that orange often represents transformation and enlightenment. It's the color that like Buddhism like often like
Mm-hmm.
wears in their robes to like show full on transformation and a higher ascended self. And it's also mirroring to me the Chanterelle's words about ascending to a higher level when they become a vampire as well.
Mhm.
So I don't know if they did this for a reason because it's right in front of our face this way. I don't find any of this to be coincidence. You know, like
No,
the
not at all.
writers and the wardrobe department had to have like had somebody on the team that had the mindset that I just went into with it. And then we're like, we're gonna put these subtle little slips. It's kind of like whenever they did that in I Robot You Jane with Buffy's t-shirts having CRD on the, you know, the cat, the dragon, and the rabbit,
Mhm.
alluding to the acronym for
Well, I was
CRD.
gonna point that out. They obviously do a lot of the subliminal like work into the scenes and into the like visual understanding that you get from things, even if it's not like there in the forefront. Because
Hmm.
here you are, and you've seen these episodes 1,000 times, and now that we're having to really fully dissect them, now you're really getting
Uh-huh.
into like the finer details. Which, like me as a first time viewer, I wouldn't have, but I'm also glad that you pointed it out because now I'm probably gonna look for color theory in every single fucking thing I watch.
Or other things you
Like,
might take
I'm never
notice.
gonna not see it,
Hmm.
like one of those things. So, yeah, that is really interesting. Watch me next season. I'm gonna be the color theory expert. I'm like, and in episode 1, we have the color blue, and this is what it means.
I love it. Never has it been in my face like this before, though. And I'm just like, I love that I picked up on it. And I like that the
Mhm.
show does this. It's really cool to add that extra little element, like you said.
And now it makes me wonder how if we can go back into the episode since episode 1, season 1, and see if they've done this every time where we've just missed it, and this is just something that they probably very like religiously do throughout each episode, but sometimes
100%.
it's just more obvious than others. Because like you said, like orange is not something that you just like see people frequently wearing. So obviously like it caught your attention this time
Hmm.
in a way where you're like, this means something.
Well, I think it happened too for some reason, right when they walked in this cool ass tone. And obviously, blue is the polar opposite of orange, and the whole room is lit up blue. So
hmm
Xander's shirt was like neon orange. And I was like, what the fuck is everybody wearing
hmm
orange for? And then it click aha moment happened for me. And I was just like, all right, we're going
Yeah,
down this
that
rabbit
was
hole.
smart.
And the rabbit was definitely at the end of the hole. I dragged his ass right on out of there. All right, great. Well, let in and now inside the club, Willow claims, boy, we fit right in, as her and Xander are in their super normal clothes. And Willow is in, of course, her cheery bright stripes compared to like the goth core vibes that are happening everywhere else. I'm like, Willow definitely stands out more than the rest of them. Xander commenting how they stick out like sore thumbs. Angel instructs they should all look around, leaving the two, and Willow makes the comment, which has always been one of my favorite and core memory of like Willow quotes. I have a small arsenal of favorite things that Willow says, and this is one of them. She ponders with Xander.
Okay, but do they really stick out?
What?
Sore thumbs, do they stick out? I mean, have you ever seen a thumb and gone, wow, that baby is sore?
You have too many thoughts.
I was just like, just such a Willow thing to say and take notice to. Like, why are these the thoughts that go through Willow's head? And I was like, I love you so much, you poor, dear, sweet little Willow. Never change. Please. Um, Xander asks her, though, if she's noticing a theme here. Willow replying as in vampires, yay? Once again, definitely like Xander Willow dialogue. The hot Darla chick from earlier coming up to them to greet them, claiming that she can tell that they are newbies. Willow trying to convince her that they are regular. She's like, we come here all the time. And I'm like, bitch, she's in here every night. She ain't never seen y'all in here. There's like 27 people in this room and she knows every single one of them. She's telling them not to be ashamed, that they just love others who also love the lonely ones. And I was like, girl, no, we're not calling them the lonely ones. But I think she means the nasty, pointy, bitey ones, aka vampires. Angel confirms from behind them, her going on about how they who walk with the night are just non-bothersome creatures with no interest in harm. They are creatures above us, exalted. And Angel calls her a fucking fool. And honestly, this is always my reaction to her saying this before he even speaks, because we have seen vampires on this show. We fight them with Buffy. We know they are the opposite of everything they're putting up in their minds that they portray.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
don't know how this girl and people in this place are so delusional about this. Clearly, none of them have ever seen a vampire and are watching Twilight and other lighthearted vampire flicks, because clearly none of them ain't ever seen The Lost Boys, never seen Queen of the Damned, or the fucking newest film, Nosferatu, like to gain any kind of perspective on what vampires actually are like. They ain't cool. They're not the lonely ones,
I will
whatever.
say even Twilight doesn't really do vampires a lot of favors, you know what I mean? Unless your name is Bella. Like, that's it. Because either way, you should have the fear that they're going to, like, suck all the blood out of your body. You know, if that's the worst case scenario, that's actually the best case scenario if that's all they do with you. You know, and then, yeah, you might wake up and never die again because you only needed to die the one time. But either way, I don't think it's going to be pleasant. And y'all are just serving yourselves up like on a fucking silver platter to these people.
Yep. They need to reassess their pondering of the vampire perception is what they need to do.
They need an
Absolutely.
evaluation.
Yes, a mental one.
Yes.
I'll let them know where Anna works. I don't know if she's ever dealt with this before.
Probably not.
Well, she absolutely does not like this, remarking Angel's rude and that she has agency. And she states that, like, her words could have validity. And I'm like,
No.
no. But she leaves them. And she has that quote. She literally says, other viewpoints might be right, you know? And I was like, okay, but they're not in this case. Like, bitch, you stupid sounding. And you're like, don't even know you're talking to an actual vampire. And he's done the worst of the worst out there for the couple hundred years that he's been a vampire-ish, you know, give or
Yeah.
take some of the years that he's not. But whatever. I'm like, girl, you really are. He was right to call her a fool. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Angel claims to the two that he's seen this before, saying exactly what they all are, vampire worshippers, but they don't know anything about vampires. No shit. What they are, how they live, how they dress. As a dude walks by Angel wearing the exact same outfit as him, like to the T, exact same outfit. And I was like, ooh, embarrassing. Every single time it's a funny scene. Like, you laughed out loud whenever it happened. I was like waiting on it. I'm like, this is great. Willow and Xander smirking at him too. Like, they look at him and they're like, oh, really? I was like, well, everything else that Angel said up to here, except
Was
apparently
valid.
the dress code was valid. Yes. They decide to leave, exiting, talking out loud about how something is up with Ford, the bestest friend of the Slayer, hanging out with a bunch of vampire wannabes, as Diego overhears them. Having interrupted their date, Buffy walks into the library with Giles and Jenny in our next scene, apologizing. Giles saying that it's okay, really. Jenny asking him if he hated their night that much. He stammers a bit. She says that he could have just told her. Him trying to sell her on the fact that he's always been interested in monster trucks.
You took him to monster trucks?
I thought it would be a change.
It was a change.
Look, we could have just left.
This shit. Like, Jenny took this motherfucker to some monster trucks. I ain't never been into monster trucks, so I've seen them like in media-ish. I know people that have went to monster truck rallies or whatever they do there. You know, they drive around over little cars and stuff and just say, "Rawr, I'm a big guy with a little PP and a big ass truck," or whatever, you know.
Yes.
All the things. Buffy starts to tell them, we need to get back to vampires, saying that they were at the school with purpose. Jenny asking where's her friend, her saying that she sent Ford home, Giles agreeing that that was best for him to keep him out of danger. Buffy telling him that he bagged a vamp on his first time out, though. Got to give him credit. And like, here you would believe that Buffy's like, in her mind, kind of just been like, okay, well, I guess this is what happened. Ford would never lie to me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no. As she looks down at the table that Giles has been doing his research on, we see a bunch of papers, and one of them has caught her eye, and it's an image, a black and white photo portraying Drusilla. Jenny, sensing the vibe change, asks Buffy is something wrong. Buffy to question Giles, who this woman is in the photo. Him stating she's called Drusilla, a paramour of Spike's. And I like that they use the word paramour because that's where Paramore actually got their name from, is like a lover. I was like, oh, I can't hear the scene without thinking of the band. I love Paramore. Anyways,
We love Haley.
he claims that she was killed by a mob in Prague, and Buffy saying that they don't make angry mobs like they used to because she's seen this woman with Angel. Jenny asking, isn't Angel supposed to be a good guy? Buffy stating, yeah, he is. And I'm like, ooh, this is putting all the bad taste in her mouth. Like, she's like questioning everything in her head at this point, too. Like, I wouldn't say that she's sitting her questioning whether Angel's good or bad, but it definitely puts it on the radar that like he's possibly up to, once again, the shady shit, or just like
Mm-hmm.
not letting her know things that maybe she should be clued in on.
Yeah.
Who knows? Jenny suggests reading up on this lady. Giles getting up to go to his office to retrieve something, bumping into the blonde chick vampire coming out of his office holding a book. And like both of them are startled. Like even the vampire's like, oh, like I didn't hear you guys all three out here talking. I'm like, what? I don't understand this. Like, why'd she not even run out the window that's in Giles' office if that's the case? Like, she clearly had to have heard them. Vampires also have heightened sense of hearing and things like that too. So I was
You
like,
would think.
so dumb. I
You
don't
have
know
lots
what
of
was happening.
questions about the vampire.
Obviously, this vampire did not give a fuck though, 'cause she bumps into Giles and just like
Just keeps
basically
going.
shoves his ass out the way and pushes him into Buffy, knocking the two of them down, running out of the library fast as fuck as he yells out, "It took one of my books." He's like really concerned about this damn book too. He's not worried about the vampire being there. He's like, he calls it an it too. He said, "It took one of my books." He didn't say she took one of my books. He said it. I was like, oh. And then Buffy's just like, he said he killed it. And they look to her and they're like, what? And she's like, that's the vampire that Ford said he killed. And then right here is where Buffy's like, all right, what the fuck is up? Cutting over to the factory to Drusilla fucking asking a dead bird in a cage why it won't sing it to her anymore.
Bitch is crazy.
Bitch is crazy. Spike hollering out to her how Lucius has told him of her going out on hunt alone the other night. She claims that he was gone and she got hungry, once again whistling at the bird to say she will pout if he doesn't sing. Spike pointedly asks if she met anyone interesting, and then he doesn't even give her the chance. He's like Angel. I'm like, oh, goddamn, man. Like, give her a chance to answer you at least. Fuck. I was like, why
want
even,
me to answer or not?
why even ask the question at that point? Like, just be like, so I heard you were out with Angel the other night. Like, boy, like, don't do this shit. She repeats his name pleasantly, though. She's like, Angel. I was like, it's giving Darla, and she's like, Angel? but different and less sad, more scary. He goes on to ponder what they spoke about and how in general it's a little off their reaction, with him being the enemy and all. Drusilla offers the bird a seed if it will sing, and he's like, bitch, stop fucking with the bird. He smarts off to her and he's like,
the bird's dead, Drew. You left it in a cage and you didn't feed it, and now it's all dead, just like the last one.
And she just like whimpers, doing her like weird fucking crazy Drusilla shit. And he is apologetic immediately over his rude words, stating that he is just worried about her weakened self going out alone and offering her a new bird, a not dead one. And I was like, in this scene,
but why would you?
In this scene, I kind of noticed for the first time that like they give off Joker and Harley Quinn vibes. And I'm also noticing that their relationship borders on toxicity. Spike questioning Drew's night out because he feels some type of way about Angel, adding more context, like that's not spoken about their past, but he wants her well, but kind of talks her down right after that. You know what I mean? Like he goes back and forth. He springs back to like his loving nature right afterwards.
They're like trauma bonding.
Like trauma. Yeah. I was like, I think I wrote in my notes something about like how we wouldn't believe an evil creature experiences love. So they have like a twisted warped mindset around the phrase. But I was just like, what's happened here?
Obviously, it's like it seems kind of possessive, like from Spike's nature, because he's obviously like not just showcasing jealousy, but a little bit of like control, you know, when he's like, well, you shouldn't be going out because you're weak. It's like he's manipulating her to think she can't handle herself kind of situation.
Absolutely.
I'm like, go away, Spike.
Yeah. But also I like them. So I'm like torn.
Go land on a spike, Spike.
Oh my God. Anyways, Spike and Drusilla are distracted as we hear Ford call out into the room, "This is so cool." And then they swing around to face him as he claims that he would totally live there. I was like, all right, great. And he's like, why are you guys living in an urban explorative place? Spike yelling out about how his lackeys keep guard like shit, but also making a joke about how DoorDash is now delivering meals to them in the form of humans. So I like that because he's like, or did we finally find a restaurant that delivers? Ford tells him he knows of Spike and came looking for him just as the blonde vampire entered, handing Spike the book that she took from Giles' office. And here I like looked at them two standing side by side. And I was like, they got to go to the same hairdresser because this bitch has platinum blonde hair and Spike has platinum blonde hair. So I was like, and assigning the perfect toner. Like, I know that bitches both getting like a 10V on their hair to make it pure white. Spike starts to fumble through the book's pages and he's like, oh, this is great. This will be very useful. Curious how he found them, Ford finds that useless info and he's just like, I'm here to offer you something, and upset by the cliche fact that Spike isn't immediately threatening him with the whole 30 seconds to live or I'll kill you bullshit.
I'm pretty sure this is the part where you take out a watch and say, I've got 30 seconds to convince you not to kill me. It's traditional.
Spike is not traditional and moves over to grab him by his head. And I was like, please rip his ear off and then eat his fucking ass. Like right now, like we don't like him already. And
I was ready for our hereditary moment right here.
Lich. And Drusilla is like, no, wait, stop, Spike. Because she's mesmerized by Ford and having the sensations of negative energy. So she's like, all right, let's keep the negative vibes flowing here. Like, let him speak for a moment because I'm sensing the energy. He lets him go and Ford goes on being annoying to him again.
Oh, come on. Say it. It's no fun if you don't say it.
Spike, like, actually humors him.
What? Oh. You've got 30 seconds to convince me not to kill you.
Yes. See, this is the best.
And then fucking Ford gets all excited. He's like, all right, great. This is the best. And I'm like, no, boy, you need to calm down. He tells Spike that he wants to be like them, a vampire. Spike disagreeing.
I've known you for 2 minutes and I can't stand you. I don't really feature you living forever. Can I eat him now, love?
I loved that part. That show's so funny. He just looks over to Dree. He's like, can I eat him now? Like, trying to ask for her approval because she asked him to stop. And I was like, he would have already been dead on the floor if this hadn't been for Drusilla. Ford then cleans up his act to say that he will offer him a trade. You make me a vampire and I'll give you the Slayer. A wicked grin appearing on Spike's face. Ooh, part 2 of our reveal for Ford's plans. You're very clued in by this point.
Yeah, I was hoping, honestly, this was like the last layer of what we were going to get out of Ford, because I'm like, certainly nothing else can come now. But I was just, in a way, not shocked because he seemed so sus from the beginning. But when he had the gall to like enter the layer, I think first off already shows you the kind of person Ford is, because like you pointed out, fucking arrogant. You're not taking consideration of shit else. Kind of not even yourself, because that's brave as fuck. Like, I would not know, I would never be that brave, to be honest with you, no matter if I had something to give Spike or not. Like, I'm not trying to negotiate a contract with you. I'm not even trying to have a face-to-face conversation with you. So there's that whole element, but then the whole, like, I'm gonna basically come in here with the token of Buffy as the exchange for what I want, and yeah, that's all I'm here for kind of thing. I was like, I really wish Buffy would have been more on her radar this one fucking time, because I feel like now that we're really here, we could have seen all this coming. We really could have.
Mm-hmm. And this is like that moment too where you're just like I said in the beginning, you're pining for Buffy to like catch his ass and like.
Oh yeah, you can't wait for him to die immediately. Upon this reveal, you're like, well, bye.
I don't know if I would go straight to die, but I would say like I would definitely be ready for him to get caught in the act and basically foil his whole plan and stuff like that. You would
Yeah.
expect Buffy to catch it ahead of time and like, or hope that she would be catching it.
Or someone, Angel, Xander, or somebody.
Yeah, but Buffy ain't catching shit because we flash over to Buffy's house and she's in her kitchen stirring some tea. Angel appears at her back door. The door's like cracked. Buffy's hot natured like me. And she's just chilling in there. And he's like, can I come in? And she's like, you're able to come in whenever you want after you've been invited. And he's like, I know, I'm just being polite, you fucking bitch. Like, what?
I know.
But he was like claiming to her that they need to talk. And she walks out of the room doing that passive aggressive shit. And he just follows behind her. And he says it's about Ford and he's not what he seems. Her agreeing that that's just apparently people these days. And I was like, ooh, like she's like giving him the passive aggressive comment. He tells her that Willow did the computer thing and she's like, oh great, Willow's involved. And then he continues to say that they tracked down a place listed as his address with Xander. And then she's like, and Xander? Oh, the gang is all here. What the fuck? Like sneaky bitches. She's like, now I'm gonna be mad at Xander and Willow tomorrow at school and like side eye them. And she's like, I'm going back to when she was bad because I ain't dealing with this shit. But above all else, she is curious now about the people that she trusts, directly now asking Angel, who's Drusilla, and not to lie to her. He claims some lies are necessary, and she claims she can handle the truth. He asks if she loves him, and she is confused, and he asks again. She clearly states,
I love you. I don't know if I trust you.
He states maybe that she shouldn't do either.
Maybe I'm the one who should decide.
He goes on to say Drusilla was the worst thing that he ever did as a vampire.
I did a lot of unconscionable things when I became a vampire. Drusilla was the worst. She was an obsession of mine. She was pure, sweet, and chaste.
And you made her a vampire.
First, I made her insane. Killed everybody she loved. Visited every mental torture on her I could devise. She eventually fled to a convent. And on the day she took her holy orders, I turned her into a demon.
Holy fuck, that is insane.
Oh my god. So lots happened in this like 1 minute of a situation. But I was not seeing any of that coming. Obviously, I felt like, you know, it was clear to us that somehow Angel and Drusilla have a past and that there's something going on here. I would have never, ever seen all that coming about how he basically tortured her to literal death than just to kill her and make her a vampire. So, like, he just gets more savage to me every time we have more reveals from his past. I'm like, holy shit, what is actually going to happen?
He was
Um,
bad. He was bad.
yeah, the scene where they finally, reveal I love yous and so was just the best. I feel like I've been waiting for this since season 1. So it was long overdue for me, but I feel like the way that they tied it into this episode in particular just makes it all the better, because it did kind of come out of nowhere. You didn't expect it in the
Mm.
conversation or in the narrative. They were going a completely different way, and it was almost this energy of Angel couldn't wait to know her feelings, and he needed some sort of validation for himself, because obviously we see behind the scenes as he was talking to Willow about how he really feels that he's basically driven crazy by Buffy's sole existence. So
Mhm.
you see a little bit of that here, and he's just continuously trying to play it so cool with her. But I feel like the way that he kind of fished for that was pretty sly also, because he wasn't like, I love you, and expecting something. He was just straight up like, do you love me?
And they can't have it come up in a normal sense. I think it's funny to touch base on something you said a second ago, season 1. You made a comment whenever we were recording. You're like, if I have to wait a whole season for this to come to fruition, blah, blah, I'm going to go crazy. And here you are kind of going crazy, waiting for this all to
Mm-hmm.
come out. And then, like, when it finally does come up, it comes up in a time whenever, like, everything's very pressed. There's like trust issues going on. And the fact that he tells her now in this instance too, and the fact that he has to ask her, do you love me beforehand? He wants assurance that she's going to be there with him, almost like, um, this is the face of a killer Bella kind of energy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's about to
Yes.
tell her that like I was an evil vampire. I did a lot of unconscionable things. And I'm about to tell you the actual, what I would define as the worst moment and the worst thing that I did to somebody on my journey as a vampire, and it being Drusilla, then obviously wrapping up into all that stuff about how he devised every mental torture of her. And then as soon as he, finally got her in the point that he wanted, she fled to a convent. And then he fucking made her a vampire on the day that she was going to take her holy orders. The whole scene wrapped up into one. It's just like, damn, this all could not be coming at a different time. Like, nothing
Mm-hmm.
can ever just be easy on this show. Nothing ever, it always has to come with a grain of salt, you know?
Yeah. Well, and there's always that added layer of complexity where you almost can't enjoy the entire moment as much as you thought you were going to had it been revealed under more normal, or like not normal, because nothing is normal on the show, but if it were an ordinary day and we were having a monster of the week situation,
Yeah.
then that would be different. But like you said, there's lots of like heavy weighted stuff going on, so it kind of takes away from all of it. But it didn't make me any less excited about the fact that it happened, so at least there's that.
For sure. Well, Buffy is stunned, saying that she asked for the truth, and he tells her then about Ford and the vampire worshippers, letting her know that she definitely cannot trust him. And now she really has no choice but to trust him. Now Buffy is clued into Ford lying about the vampire shit, and she has no clue other than to believe Angel's motives and fill in the blanks over why. The next day at school, Buffy is walking into the courtyard alone and fashion police because she got this little white clip in her hair, and it just kind of irks me. She wears it like just in this scene and with Willow and Xander in the hallway for 2 seconds when she walks by them. And I'm like, it's windy as fuck outside. Buffy's hair is whipping around everywhere. So I'm just thinking her bangs and stuff kept getting in her face. So they had to put this clip on there, and then they filmed the next scene and then they took it out. She's not in it anymore. But I like Buffy's pants in this. She's wearing like pleated looking pants, and then she's got on these like white boots.
Yeah, totally.
Either way, Buffy at school in the courtyard hears Ford calling out to her, and he tells her whenever he meets up with her that he had a great time the night before, and he asks her out again. And she says that she's free, and he goes on about how he's got this secret idea and a surprise for Buffy. They plan to meet at the school at 9. He tells her it will be fun and walks off from her. Her feeling shifty, goes inside the school and tries to make her way past Xander and Willow, but Willow stops her to ask if Angel, and then like she never really gets out the sentence, and then she confirms, yeah, Angel, I saw him, he told me everything, whatever. And Willow explaining away Angel's good intentions and how their secrecy was in case of false accusations, fair. Xander asking if she found out what Ford is up to, her saying that she will, and leaving them. Xander snarking at Willow, he's like, Angel was in your bedroom? And she's like,
ours is a forbidden love.
yes. That shit's funny because, like, obviously Xander's not just going to snap at Buffy whenever it comes to other men. He's going to get Willow too in this shit. I'm just like, all right.
But it's funny because either way, he kind of has the same reaction. Like, it don't matter whose bedroom Angel's in, it's a problem.
Yep. Because it's not Xander's bedroom.
It's because Angel's not fat.
Well, at least Xander was telling truths this episode. Xander honestly don't really lie often. He's always telling you things you don't want to hear.
You are right.
Well, we move over to the Sunset Club. Ford calling out to Chanterelle the hotter Darla chick has a name. This is where you actually hear her name for the first time in the episode, asking if everything is ready. Diego coming in hot to be like, yes. He doesn't even give her a chance. He's like, yes, I got everything going. We're good. I'm like, boy, get the fuck on, Marvin. What the hell are you doing? Her asking Ford if tonight is the night, him asking if she's nervous, and she says yes, but then saying no immediately. She's like, no, I'm ready for the change. Asking if he really thinks that they'll bless us. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh God, that's the last
This
thing.
bitch, I'm just like, they are not going to bless you. They're going to eat you and leave you dead. You're not even going to get changed.
Yeah.
But he says that he knows they will. Diego asks about his friends and if they are coming, and Ford's like, who the fuck you talking about? AKA talking about Xander and Willow and the mean one. Because this bitch is like, and one of them was mean. It's like, you mean Angel? I was like, damn, all these side names this episode, because we got fucking Diego out here with Marvin. We got Xander calling him Dead Boy. And I was like, just nobody knows their names this episode. I do not know what's going on with it. But I do want to point out, too, eccentric and theatrical as she is, I absolutely low-key love Chanterelle's fit here. So she's got this, like, slender, like, black and red dress on. And then she's got this, like, thick banded red choker on with this fucking thick-ass red jewel on it. It's extra as fuck. But, like, I low-key vibe with it. I would never wear it, obviously, even if I was, like, a girl and I was
It's
going for this vibe.
appropriate for the occasion.
It's totally appropriate for the occasion and, like, for the vibes that this place gives off. You would expect somebody to be dressed like this in here.
Totally.
It's like she's trying to, like, channel modern Victorian era. Because, you know, you used to wear, like, the brooches on their necks and the big pendulums and things like that. So it's like a twisted way of viewing it. I also love the red, too. Well, Ford is pissed that he wasn't informed. Chanterelle is upset, worried this will cause them not to get their blessings. Ford calling out that it will be fine. As Buffy's voice calls out to the room, no, it's really not. And I'm like, ooh, you caught. The Slayer done found your ass. She tracked you. She is not stupid. You ain't messing with someone dumb. He mutters to Diego that it's drafty in there, aka go shut the door behind Buffy. Buffy coming down the staircase to say that she has a flaw of being rash and impulsive, so she couldn't wait till later. Would basically have you believing that Buffy was going to be an Aries, but she's not.
I know, right? Literally.
And he claims that they all have flaws, but she's a little fuzzy on what exactly his is, thinking lying scumbag might sum it up. Everybody lies, he states. She asks what the fuck is up. He tells her that she wouldn't understand, and she is just like,
I don't need to understand. I just need to know.
oh, I love you. Look at you. I read my notes wrong. He flat out tells her, I'm going to be one of them. You want to be a vampire, she asks. He clarifies he's going to be. She tries to inform him vamps are picky about who they choose to change, but dots start to connect real quick in Buffy's head, and she realizes everything at once. He says he doesn't think that he wants to talk anymore, and then this bitch just grabs him by the throat and jacks him up against the fucking wall, and I'm like, yes, yes. And she's like, I'm feeling awfully chatty. Unveiling his correct plan, she states, you know, I had to figure it out. And he grins, saying that he was actually counting on it. He laughs and she asks what's going on. He goes on about how this is so cool. It's all playing out exactly like he imagined in his delusional ass head. As we hear the door loudly shut and lock. She runs up to the door, banging on it, and he says that it's been rigged so that it can only be opened from the outside now, which actually kind of clicks you in, too, if you don't really pay attention to it. Whenever he first arrives at the club, they're, like, iron welding the fucking door with, like, the sparks and the blow torches and stuff. They're creating this door whenever he
I didn't
first
even
appears.
put that together.
Yeah, so, like, that had already happened. And that we're clicked into it and be like, oh, that's what the fuck they were doing in the beginning of this episode. And, you know, now they're all fucked because they're trapped down there until someone comes up. And I was like, who's going to come let them out? A bunch of vampires. I absolutely love the music cue here. This is one of the times that I want to comment on it. It shifts immediately, and I love the tone because the vibe of the music is just like everything went sour. Doom is looming, especially the cue following Ford's next words.
Once it's closed, it can only be opened from the outside. As soon as the sun sets, they'll be coming.
Like, and then you got that cool shot of them all standing down the staircase. The angle is just really good. The music sets it up really good. I was just like, oh, but you feel like your gut drop down into the bottom of your stomach, even though your gut already lives there, or your heart sink. But I'm like, ooh, scary. But Buffy starts to claim that these people are not safe. The other delusional fuckers down here being like, they are going to turn us too. Chanterelle, the hardest to be like, we're going to ascend to a new level of consciousness. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That's what you think this is? No, this is not what's about to happen. Sorry, babe. Ford saying to Buffy that this is the end. No one gets out of here alive. Another thing I like about the shot too is just the blue lighting in this room. It bouncing off everybody's stuff. It makes the red tones that much more red. It makes everybody's skin blue. Like obviously when you're undead, your skin appears more blue and cool tones. So it's just interesting how they like set up the image for this space that we're like closing off our scene in and where these vampires have been hanging out in.
Mm-hmm.
Buffy is alarmed, looking around for a second way out, and he's like,
I knew I wasn't going to be able to overpower you, but this is 3 feet of solid concrete.
can't have you escaping. Ooh, it'd take Buffy a long time to sit there and punch through that fucking shit. Honestly, if she had to, she could probably rip this door down eventually, but I'm like, she's stuck for now.
Not without effort.
And Buffy is the best too. She bargains for him to at least let the other people go. The others are like, this is going to be a great experience. Why can't you just be happy for us? And Buffy's like, no. What I see is that come sundown, Spike and his friends are going to be pigging out on the all-you-can-eat moron bar.
That was my favorite.
Diego calls her a non-believer who is tainting them. And I like the way he says, he's like, she's a non-believer. She taints us. He's just fucking got to stick up his ass. But in fact, Buffy is trying to save their asses, going on a tangent informing them that they are going to die. And their only way is to get out of this pit. And my God, could Diego be wearing a dorkier outfit? Laugh my fucking ass off right here. She's saying it for all of us because I've been eyeing him this whole episode every time I used to watch it in the past before she ever did it. I was just like, why is he dressed like this? He looks like a magician or like a sorcerer versus an actual vampire. I get the cloak, but his is like bright, majestic ass blue and got twinkles and sparkles all over it.
He looks like a wizard.
He looks like a wizard. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Sorry, Diego. You need to go back to being Marvin. Marvin was starving to be a vampire. And Ford just goes, told you, man, you do look like a big ninny. And I was like, they've already clearly had this conversation beforehand. Fuck. Ford's alarm on his watch goes off. 6:27, sunset. As we clip over to the factory, as Spike's giving orders for his crew to eat everyone else and leave the Slayer for him, coming over to Drew, asking if she's sure she's up for this because he's going to bring her along. And she's like, I want a treat. I need a treat. And then he like jingles the car keys and he's like, Lucius, bring the car around. I was like, damn, he got servants, personal drivers, all the things. Back over in the club, Buffy runs up the stairs looking for a way out, Ford patronizing her about not giving up, Buffy informing him that he is what they would call the bad guy. She, alone with him upstairs now, says that she knows that these people aren't going to get changed, and he agrees, but who cares, because he will be turned. Buffy over here acting like Dakota Fanning and Uptown Girls to say to him,
News flash.
Like,
I know, I love that.
She's like, swinging door. Bam. I miss Brittany Murphy. Rest in peace. But she's telling him that that's not how it works. You die, then a demon sets up shop in your old house, but it's no longer you. He claims at least it's something. Her asking, and your life is nothing. She screams at him then to say that these people don't deserve to die. And then here we hit. He's like screaming at her, well, neither do I. But apparently no one else took that into consideration because he's still dying. Sad music begins to play as he reveals his hidden truth to Buffy. And I'm just going to play the whole speech because I'll cry if I try to read it in full context because the scene always makes me cry, always. It's really emotional. It's really sad.
I look good, don't I? But let me tell you something. I got maybe 6 months left, and by then, what they bury won't even look like me. It'll be bald and shriveled, and it'll smell bad. No, I'm not going out that way.
She gets upset and turns her back to him while he's saying all of this.
I'm sorry, Summers. Did I screw up your righteous anger riff? Does the nest of tumors liquefying my brain kind of spoil the fun?
She turns back to him to tell him that she's sorry and she had no idea. My eyes are literally tearing up. Yeah, I know, it's sad. I can't see my words. She tells him that he's sorry, she had no idea, but what he is doing is still very wrong. He replies,
Okay, well, you try vomiting for 24 hours straight because the pain in your head is so intense, and then we'll discuss the concept of right and wrong. These people are sheep. They want to be vampires because they're lonely, miserable, or bored. I don't have a choice.
You have a choice. You don't have a good choice, but you have a choice. You're opting for mass murder here, and nothing you say is gonna make that okay.
You think I need to justify myself to you?
I think this is all part of your little fantasy drama. Isn't this exactly how you imagined it? You tell me how you've suffered, and I feel sorry for you. Well, I do feel sorry for you, and if those vampires come in here and start feeding, I'll kill you myself.
It's really, really sad. That's why I called this episode and this scene devastating, because I didn't
Mhm.
like this boy the whole episode, but damn if they don't succeed as writers and actors to rope you into the feeling sorry of this guy. Like,
Totally.
because it's real. It's life, it's death, and for him, it's unbearable. He feels justified in what he's doing because it's unfair for him. He's a teen boy that doesn't want to die. It's the most human thing I think we've been shown on this show so far. And to me, it's really powerful. It's heavy. You were saying that it's like the plot thickens like immensely. Like you feel the tightness close around you whenever he's given the speech. And it hits hard when he states that he will be bald, shriveled, and he will smell bad, and how he doesn't want to go out that way. So it makes sense why vampirism is idealistic for him. Like
Mhm.
he won't have to have died that way. He will die looking beautiful and young. And even if it isn't him anymore, because I think he knows that conceptually, whereas the other people are literally in Delulu land. I don't think he's existing in that space. I think he knows what happens when you become a vampire. Buffy didn't have to explain it to him, you know?
Mhm. No, I totally agree, but I think that no matter the case, what it never ever took away from me, and I guess why I wasn't pulled into a very emotional like state with it, is because basically in revealing what he's revealed, but by having spent the entire episode doing what he's been doing, he's basically indirectly saying that my life and the value of it actually outweighs yours, because I was going to exchange you to become this.
Mhm.
And that isn't fair to Buffy, because Buffy isn't dying. That isn't her fate. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I understand the reasoning, but it doesn't make everything you did between that point and this one okay.
Yeah.
You know, it should never be that you sacrifice someone else so you can live. If it's not a self-sacrifice, then you aren't gonna live, basically, like your fate is death. And I feel like that part, to me, almost made him more selfish in a way, because I'm like, so you did this not just consciously with all of your awareness intact, but you did it while knowing that you were going to have to basically feed another person to the beast of this, so that way you could come out the way that you chose to, or the way that you wanted to, or the way that seems more comfortable for you, when Buffy literally has spent her entire teenage years that we've seen so far slaying vampires, putting herself in danger to help other people stay safe.
Mhm.
And you're gonna not just take that away from all of the town, you know, like their protector, literally,
Yeah.
but like, you know, there's just so many layers where I'm just like, it's not just like he was risking anyone, he was risking Buffy specifically. That takes then the protection away from every single person that she loves, including the entire town, because let's face it, if she hadn't like beat the master, there would be no more people in the town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone would
Seriously.
be dead.
Seriously.
So, I don't know. It was just a lot for me, but obviously, like, his stance and his position is super sad, and I can understand why maybe he felt the need to go this far, but I just don't think it makes it okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, he's retaliating obviously because of his circumstances, and it is
Mhm.
selfish, and it's supposed to be. And he's acting out. He's mad and upset by all this, so he's taking the wrong road and making a bad choice, and
Mhm.
everything that's happening and unfolding. And obviously, it sets up for a really great episode to be that way. And you spend a lot less time empathizing with him than you do actually wanting Buffy to, like I said, pine for her to kick
Well,
his
and
ass
then you
again.
have to understand, like, the layer of, like, the episode is called "Lie to Me," and everyone's been lying this entire time, so I'm like, how does Buffy even know if he's not lying to her right now?
True.
You know, and you don't ever wanna think that a person will lie about something like that
Yeah,
specifically, but you've seen it happen in reality, not even just on a show, so
for
it's
sure.
like, you know, you don't know really how to feel about him. At least I didn't. I didn't know how to really feel about him at the
Yeah.
end. It just left me more confused than anything. But like you said, at least you grow out of the emotional hatred toward him, because that is kind of how you spend a lot of the episode, when you realize that it's just getting worse and worse and worse with his intention.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I was just left, at least not really hating him as much. I just felt super conflicted, and I really almost didn't know what was what. Like, I was like, I felt like I got lied to the whole episode. I don't know
Yeah.
that's real.
No, yeah, definitely. Buffy is not going to let it happen, though, even as we just heard. If it means having to kill him herself, she's not going to let this happen because it is ultimately wrong. And in this awful moment, he breaks her heart a little bit more by telling Buffy, you know, Summers, I really did miss you. And it adds like that component to it because obviously everything that he did, just tell her, we know this is his situation. It's not a lie that he's telling Buffy. We know this to be true. This is actually his case scenario. He is dying of cancer and all this stuff. And then he follows this up with like, he really did miss Buffy after she left and stuff. But then obviously like this happened. And now this is where he sits in his life making a shitty ass choice. And it sucks because this is his friend, twisted as he is now. It is for a reason. He isn't just a villain. He's, like I said, a human and scared to die in a horrible way with a terminal illness. That's one thing I love about Ford personally, is that he's an emotionally complex villain, and he has me identifying with him and empathizing for him, on every spectrum that I can be. But the fact that he's an emotionally complex villain, we don't get those very often. We have
Right.
started seeing them already, and I'll point that
Yeah.
out in the beginning of my fun facts because I took notice of that when I was finishing up the script. I was like, oh yeah, this isn't the first like emotionally complex villain that we've had, but it's a very interesting dynamic, and it always breaks my heart whenever I see this scene, just because somebody that like is afraid of death in a certain way. Like, I mean, I'm not afraid of, if I die, it is what it is. I understand that, but I'm not ready to die. And I know that him at, 17, 18 years old, he's not ready to die either. So
Of
it
course.
sucks.
Yeah. 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 And that's why I was saying you can understand
Hmm.
his position and his actions around his position a little bit more. And it doesn't make them okay, but you can understand them, especially when you remind yourself that he is as young as he is. So I think if he was a little bit older and maybe stepped a little bit more into adulthood and had the same circumstances evolve, like as far as his health is concerned, I think maybe he would have even then taken a different approach. Because I
Yeah.
think when you're older, you're not as rash. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely thinking with like that
More of
mindset
a
of a
immature,
immature.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it does. Obviously, I can't imagine if you're 17 and someone looks at you and says, well, you probably have 3 months left to live. And here you thought you had at least 50 years left to live, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. A good 50. Yeah. That's not
Yeah.
fun. Well, we hear the car tires screeching, the vampires arriving, and she asks one last time for him to please help her stop this. And he just ignores her. And right here, Ford had the choice to do something different and helping Buffy save these people, but he makes the wrong choice. And right here is where we stop empathizing with him in that same way that we've been talking about. Like right here, it's
Mhm.
cut dead because he had one final opportunity. And this is where we have stopped asking ourselves if he is the villain or the victim. We know that he is the villain in this
Yeah.
situation. Buffy tries to alert everyone that this is ugly death come to play, and she's freaking the fuck out, moving over to the top of the stairs where Ford then backhands her, like with, I mean, I he backhands her, but I noticed he has a fucking crowbar in his hand, like metal instrument. He beats her ass with it down the fucking stairs, and she tumbles down. And I noticed Chanterelle's face whenever he hits Buffy, she's just like, I didn't see that coming. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you hurting her? Like, I thought maybe she was here. Like, he's probably left the pretenses that Buffy was going to be also like them. She wanted to be a vampire too. You know what I mean? She was like very
Mhm.
taken aback by it. Spike walks in the door and he's vamped out and immediately looking fierce. This fucking terrifies me when he comes in because she is standing at the top of the stairs because she, like, when she hears the doors open and she like slowly walks up to the top of the stairs and she's like, oh, I want to go first. I want to be blessed first. She looks terrified whenever she actually sees his face, and then he actually like growls in her fucking face. That growl and that flinch towards her, just like she even shudders a little bit because she immediately in this moment knows like this isn't
This
what I
isn't good.
expected. Yeah, this is a
Mhm.
different vibe.
Yeah.
And he
There
screams.
ain't no Edward Cullen coming up in here.
100%. This is not, no, fucking, you better go over on Jacob's side. Um, and he hollers out into the room, take them all, save the Slayer for me. And the vamps obviously start their feeding frenzy. Spike bites, like rips her necklace off her neck and bites into Shanti's neck. And Buffy slings forward headfirst into the pillar, knocking him out. And I like clap for joy because I'm like, thank God this motherfucker's out for the count. And she looks around and all these vampires are just on all these people feasting off of them. And she's like,
Mhm.
well, what the fuck do I do? How am I going to stop all this at once? And then she looks up to the second floor up there, and up in the corner, who do we have? Drusilla standing off and alone by herself. And Buffy's like, oh, okay, great. So she hops up in one of her awesome Slayer action moves. This is actually how she got on top of the Urbex location. She just hops and runs and jumps up. She doesn't have to have a ladder or anything like that.
Lucky
And
bitch.
she scoops Drusilla up, taking her by surprise, and holds a stake to her chest. And she hollers out Spike's name, who notices and yells, everybody stop. Buffy is pleased with this decision. And she's like, now let everyone go and out, or your girlfriend fits in an ashtray. And I like how she demands this too. I was like, oh shit. Drew looking down at this steak, hella nervous, aka how she need to be looking at me with my podcast name trademark. Oh, it's just funny as fuck. He orders for them to free the people. They do, and then they start to exit. Buffy telling Spike to move down the stairs, walking toward him with Drew. And I like how he does, because he slowly like arches down. He's like waiting for anything, because he's like, is she going to kill this bitch? You know, which actually gives like an insight into their world. He cares about Drusilla. So obviously, even though he's an evil undead thing, he has feelings in some shape or form. So he doesn't want Drusilla to be harmed. Whenever she's made enough space in between it, Buffy finally gets in front of the door and she slings Drew at him and runs out of the room, closing the door behind him. Spike just stopping to look at the door when he runs up to it. And he's like, where's the doorknob? Outsmarted by Buffy again, and now shit out of luck, because now y'all gonna be hanging out here. But as we know, vampires will tear down that door and they will get out, because we watched them peel a metal door down in The Harvest. So we know they're going to get out. Outside, we hear the vamps banging, and we see Willow, Xander, and Angel come running up to Buffy, her telling them that the vamps are contained, but they need to clear out, though, because they will get out eventually, and they will come back in the morning. Xander asking, come back for what? And Buffy looking back at the door to state, for the body. And that shit sucks. I'll get on it in a little bit, but I was like, what the fuck? Inside, Ford wakes up asking Spike what happened, him saying that they are stuck in the basement, and Buffy, Ford wonders, Spike informing she's not stuck in the basement. Ford claims he played his role and delivered, Spike agreeing and guessing that he will hold up his end of the bargain, and we fade out of that scene. And that shit's heavy as fuck. The music here again and the scene is great to me. Like, it leaves you feeling very unsettled, and we know that Ford is getting what he asked for, aka he's about to die. But the way it just ends with Spike and Drew staring at him, like, it's very ominous feeling. And the music, like I said, just sounds really cool. I personally feel bad for this reward. You're definitely getting what's coming to you, but it sucks because when that door shuts and he's stuck down there, we know that Ford is now dead. Like, he's getting what he asked for. He asked for this, so he's going to get what he wants, but it just sucks because a person's literally about to die. So, like, did he feel happy? Did he feel released whenever Spike bit into him and sired him as he felt his soul leaving his body? Was he just like, okay, I'm going up to like heaven or wherever it is, like, to live my eternal life? Well, I wonder what went through his head in that moment, and we'll never really truly know, or probably care. In the nicest way I say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. But it's a fucked up scenario.
It is.
We transition to Buffy the next morning, walking by the busted down door, walking down the stairs, coming up to Ford's dead body laying there at the bottom of the steps with his eyes open. We cut then to a future night. Buffy is in the graveyard with Giles, laying flowers on Ford's grave. Buffy explaining to Giles that she doesn't know what to say, and it would be simpler if she could just hate him. Guessing he probably wanted her to, seeing him as the villain. But how he was just scared in reality. Buffy goes on to say nothing is ever simple anymore. She doesn't know who to love, who to hate, who to trust. Problems keep arising, and Giles simply puts it,
I believe that's called growing up.
She says, I'd like to stop then, okay? And I love it. It's so innocent. And he smiles, saying that he knows the feeling. She asks if it ever gets easy, just as a sudden alert music crashes in. And this is from the script. It literally says, Ford burst from the grave, a snarling vampire, and lunges at Buffy, who plants a stake firmly in his chest, and she doesn't even look as he explodes into dust. And I was like, damn, normally she's always reveling in the slay and the kill. This time she didn't even like look at him when she did it. And I was like, oh, that's really sad. Like, and we get to see him. And you know, something that I've seen in media and like people's comments and stuff, there are actually people out there that didn't realize this was Ford that she was slaying. And I'm like, how do you not realize this the whole episode? That this is Ford? Like, what? They're like confused.
Did they miss the whole episode?
Stupid shit. And I also don't get why he's buried in Sunnydale whenever his parents really didn't move to Sunnydale. Like, how did the whole funeral situation happen? Like, how did this all unfold?
I always have so many questions about the parents in these situations, because so many teenagers have just died in the last 2 seasons that I'm just like, can we show the parents finding out one time?
Well,
like, all these parents' kids just never come home, and nobody is like, there ain't missing kids posters everywhere all over. So I'm just like, what the fuck's going on here? Y'all gonna run out of room on that damn cemetery, I'll tell you that much. Whole town of fucking cemetery. There's just like 5 houses between each cemetery.
Literally though. But yeah, I never noticed that she never looked at him whenever he exploded into dust. And I also have to call out that we got the 2K per slay, which I called the 2K per Ford slay. Giles asks if Buffy means life, and she confirms again, yeah. Does it ever get easy? He asks what she would like him to say, and she just asks, lie to me. To which he does, giving her a bullshit statement.
Yes, it's terribly simple. The good guys are always stalwart and true. The bad guys are easily distinguished by their pointy horns or black hats. And we always defeat them and save the day. No one ever dies, and everybody lives happily ever after.
Liar.
The two walk out of the graveyard. We fade to black, and here ended the episode.
He
Just
makes
like,
everything sound like a fairy
liar,
tale.
literally.
Yeah.
And it's a good little quote from Giles, too. I was like, I like how Giles shows up in this episode.
Yeah, me too.
Metaphor for this episode is intense. I'm just going to say I've got like a nice little chunk about it. This is probably one of our most significant metaphor sections to date. It's a little long, but it provides a lot for us and opens up a new theme for the show. It's important to note Drusilla tells Angel in the open that it's just the beginning. And Mark Fields relates this back to this theory that Halloween marks the transition episode symbolized by Giannis, the two-faced statue. 𝐼𝐸 marks the beginning of what we will see the remainder of the season, including more emphasis on darker settings, and it marks Buffy's first attempts to understand the adult world. 𝐼𝐸 defines the theme of the show, growing up. Like any teenager, Buffy's starting to wonder what growing up actually means. One thing that it means is that there aren't any easy decisions. We see this in her end quote, where she speaks on nothing being simple anymore and how the more she knows leads to further confusion for her. Then Giles replies, I believe that's called growing up. The theme is literally finally spoken here too, the whole metaphor of the show. Buffy sits in the graveyard waiting in this scene to slay her childhood crush, considering in context Ford's situation and his plans for his fate. He mentions he will die bald, shriveled, and in pain, aka a metaphor for the aging process. It's the resistance to aging which characterizes vampires, which we spoke on in the season 1 metaphor. His solution to die young and stay pretty. When she slays Ford, Buffy's not just putting her childhood behind her for good. She's rejecting the very idea that there can't be any permanent sense of childhood. Buffy's argument with Ford in the club is quite revealing as well. His situation is dire, but his solution is worse. Buffy doesn't sound self-righteous when we take her side of the argument either. She can lecture him on these choices because she herself has made a very difficult and similar choice in Prophecy Girl. She chose to die in order to do what was right, which is something that you kind of started to argue earlier in the episode. Which brings us to a good place to talk about the importance of another theme for the series that goes along the whole way is choice. Although not spoken on, we see it as an important theme in season 1. Buffy wasn't the Slayer until she made the conscious choice to commit to her destiny in Prophecy Girl. Now in 𝐼𝐸, we see her choice emphasized again. Buffy's giving meaning to her life as the Slayer by the power of choice. She chooses to accept responsibility for the world because in doing so, she gives meaning both to herself and the world at large. The power of choice always remains to human beings. Individuals are always free to make choices and guide their lives towards their chosen goal. This power allows people to create their own authentic self as well. And that goes down like a route of philosophy. Speaking on that, it's easy to see how that fits in with Buffy. She has become responsible for her own destiny and is being true to herself. Ford's situation gives us another reflection on this. He blamed the world for his actions and refused to accept responsibility for his choice he was actually making, even as he denied the possibility of choice to his unwilling victims that he was, housing in the club as well. Ford comments that these people are sheep. They want to be vampires because they're lonely, bored, or miserable. I don't have a choice. But then Buffy states you have a choice. You don't have a good one, but you have a choice. Ford was rejecting his own humanity when he said that he had no choice, trying to make himself an object rather than a person, the sign of someone acting in bad faith. In philosophy for bad faith, it describes it as a human one. Cannot claim your actions are determined by external forces. This is a core statement of existentialism. One must not exercise bad faith by denying the self's freedom of choice and accountability. Buffy's reflections with Giles at the end show that she recognizes both the need to make choices and the difficulty of remaining true to herself while doing so. There's so much more obviously to get into, like with Angel and Drusilla, and the more philosophy when it comes down to that and existentialism, but I'm gonna hold off until we get further down the road because I don't want to give too much. I'm gonna wrap it up in a bow like I did with Cordelia at the end of season 1 when it comes to metaphor. But yeah, that's basically what I have for metaphor. It's a mouthful, but I like how they kind of break it down and then they show that the metaphor shows once again acceptance, a new theme being choice, and how these are bigger themes for choices moving you from a childhood to adulthood. It's all about that same journey. And obviously that's our journey through the whole series, essentially. I did have another section that I created to touch base on something that I took notice to upon this rewatch. And I feel like it just adds another layer to Buffy and the journey that she's going through and what she's experiencing. So I called this Buffy's burden. 𝐼𝐸 elicits a profound emotional response from us. We experience a whirlwind of feelings from the pervasive lies and deception throughout the episode to the heartbreaking culmination of Ford's situation and his drastic choices. He is determined to take control of his fate and die on his own terms. However, we cannot discuss this devastation and sorrow without considering Buffy and the immense challenges that she faces. Not only has her longtime friend and first crush arrived in town, lied to her, and manipulated her, but he also delivers a crushing revelation amid the chaos and terror engulfing everyone trapped in the club. So consider this. Buffy not only feels sympathy for Ford, but she is also confronted with the painful reality of losing a friend. This moment marking one of the first instances that I see truly breaking her heart. If we think of the Three of Swords tarot card, which depicts 3 swords piercing a heart, the card itself symbolizing emotional pain, heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, and loss, all elements that resonate deeply within the episode and Buffy's journey as the Slayer. In my view, this scenario represents the second proverbial sword piercing her heart, the first being her own death intertwined with the Master's emotional destruction. When she flees the club, she knows she is leaving Ford's unconscious body behind with Spike and the other vampires, and I believe that she honors Ford's final wishes, and the weight of this realization must be overwhelming for her. When she states that she will come back for the body, it's a heartbreaking sentiment. To compound this emotional turmoil, she ultimately has to stake the vampire version of Ford, while we're left grappling with the knowledge that she likely attended his funeral and stood at his grave beforehand. Bringing me to my point, which is clear. This episode reinforces the idea that Buffy has no easy journey. Her path is fraught with burdens, pain, and emotional upheaval. It's no wonder she expresses herself so profoundly in the closing scene, preferring that Giles lie to her rather than omit the truth.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
Buffy has a fucked up journey at the end of the day. Like, we haven't seen any instance where everything's just ooh la la, hugs and fairies for her at all.
No.
In any way, shape, or
No.
form. Not one angle of her life. Even her
No,
friends
poor
are
thing.
looped up into this bullshit. You know what I mean? They're having
Yeah.
to slay vampires with her and
They're
do this
like
whole
guilty
thing.
by association.
Yeah, it sucks. But closing thoughts on the episode. What's your final stuff to say about Lie to Me?
Like you, I think this is going to be one of my top episodes for season 2. I really, really enjoyed all the reveals, all the plot twists, all the breadcrumbing. And yeah, it was a good, I guess, mile marker to meet in this season, knowing that like just more shit is going to get crazier from here on. And I feel like this was just like a little bit of a taste of that. So it makes me look really forward to what is going to happen next.
I've already said that this is a favorite episode of mine, and I revisited one more than others, and I think you can see why now. Basically, you just stated why. And why it's also big for everyone else that watches this. The beginning of the episode, Buffy is on the phone with Willow saying that it just makes things easier, like to have Ford know about this. But then by the end, she is literally saying that nothing is ever simple anymore. And then asks Giles, does it ever get easy? Like, she thought it was easy, but now it's not. You know what I mean? It's like a double-edged sword, aka the sword that's piercing her heart. In one episode, everything is turned on its flip side. One episode, and the secure feeling that Buffy had, everything going on, Ford, Angel, her duty as a Slayer, like, has now dissipated and made her feel not so confident in the reality that she lives in. With my Orange Theory also, it speaks ultimately to the change and transformation. Everything in Buffy's world has changed by this episode's end. And also with the theme of episode 7s, and to point out the number 7 is also associated in numerology with transformation. This is 100% a signifier of what I keep saying, and I'm not going to lie to you. This is now a different show moving forward, and you can expect much more of this energy to follow. Like, you just preface yourself, like,
Oh, hell.
proceed with caution, because that's what the color orange tells us, you know?
Yeah.
Good luck. Here we go. Some fun facts I have that I didn't spread out into the episode. Song playing whenever Ford enters the Sunset Club the first time is called Neverland. Can't remember the band. I didn't write it down. Neverland is obviously a nod to Peter Pan. And what's the story of Peter Pan all about? Escaping adulthood and being a child forever.
Yeah.
So it's a fun little interesting thing there. Ford asking Buffy on a date, telling her that it's a surprise, also parallels Jenny in the beginning of the episode when she's inviting Giles to go out with her. She won't tell him like what the surprise is. Obviously, her surprise is a lot less detriment than like Ford's. Todd McIntosh, the show's makeup supervisor, played the vampire wannabe that said hi to Willow when they entered the club. He's like laying in the coffin up against the wall. He is a highly regarded lifelong friend of Sarah Michelle Gellar, and he also did a lot of the makeup on the set for special effects and stuff like that too.
Oh, nice.
He creates the vampires aesthetic and like most of the monsters we see. I'm sure he had a hand on McKeed's shout out, all the things. But yeah, the note passing scene mimics a similar scene from 16 Candles. I'm sure you've seen that with Molly Ringwald, right? In which the conversation starts on a piece of paper in the classroom and then it continues in the hallway whenever they exit the classroom. That is a scene that apparently happens in that movie. I can't place it in my mind. I've seen that movie a good chunk of times, but I haven't seen it in a really long time, so I can't remember it. But I found that in my fun facts search. And then I pointed out earlier how Ford is emotionally complex, and I found it a point to make that we are 7 episodes into season 2, and we've already had 3 emotionally complex characters that we feel bad for. First, Daryl from Some Assembly Required, and then we had Ampada from Inca Mummy Girl, and now we have Ford. And I think that that's telling us something for this season's story arc and overall theme in a small way. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
That's all the fun facts. Now we can get into final slays.
Final slay.
Yeah. I don't know. Go ahead with your quotes for the app.
I think honestly, Xander took the cake for me just because he was really fucking hilarious this episode, especially like the first few scenes and such that we see him in.
You're not wrong.
But yeah, exactly. And that is basically my favorite quote. Definitely when Xander ×2 says you're not wrong, once in reference to Angel looking older, and then the second time when Ford shakes Angel's hand and he's like, you got cold hands or whatever, or something, or ooh, it's cold, and Xander's like, you're not wrong. And then obviously my most favorite one is when Ford's asking if he's imposing on their plans, and Xander's like, only in the literal sense.
Xander quotes. Xander
Love
does have, like, they do usually give him some really funny commentary to, like, work into the show. Moments that I love from him. My quotes were the scene with Buffy and Diego where she's like, you know, talking about the sun coming down and, like, Spike's going to be picking out on the all-you-can-eat moron bar. And then he's like, all right, I think we should gag her. And then she's like, I think you should try. And then Willow, because it always goes down the sore thumbs quote. You ever seen a thumb and been like, wow, that baby is sore? Absolutely love that quote for Willow. That's like top tier one. And then my final favorite one is from Buffy, and it's let them all go or your girlfriend fits in an ashtray. Because
That's
it's
a good one, too.
literally so true. Like, and that's imagery that we can just like make, especially in the 90s, everyone was smoking cigarettes. So you can just like see all the ashes from like 10 cigarettes.
And because like whenever you're talking about them being dusted, you never really like put it into that perspective really until that moment. And you're like, she's so fucking right. It's so funny.
It's funny as fuck. The way she just puns and banters in these situations. She just thought that off the top of her fucking head. That's awesome.
I love it.
My shining slayer for this episode has to be Buffy, because she hardcore saved the day and deserves this title. Being hella strong too. The fact that she told Ford if the Vamps came in here and started feeding that she would kill him herself. That was just intense. And Buffy's mental health got to be declining at this point. No wonder she says what she does at the end with Giles. This bitch has had enough. But I gave it to Buffy.
Yeah. I mean, that is so true. And she is. Up until the very end when all the action started, mine was Angel. And it was literally because he was the only one who was seeing all the red flags when they were like waving in everyone's face. And he's like, there they are. I'm telling you. And everyone's like, oh, look at you. You're so cute. You're jealous.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I think this guy's going to murder everyone. I think we should find out.
I love it whenever you're at the opposite side of what my shining slayer is, because now we're Bangel together. It's like that one time we had Xander and Willow and like, look, we're best buds. Now we're lovers.
Well, you know, according to the reviews, best friends can't agree on everything. Not allowed. I'm done.
All right. What was giving you the weekly wigs?
I think it's pretty much a toss-up, but overall, I think Drusilla gave me the weekliest wigs when she's sitting here talking to this kid about what's your mom gonna do when they find your body. Because I'm like, bitch, first off, you're already coming in hot, acting extra creepy. There's not a child in this world who would run towards you and not away. So there's that much. And then secondly, you really need to take it this far as to like physically, verbally threaten this child as if he doesn't know what the fuck is coming. Like, yeah, no, I wasn't here for it. So, but overall, her entire existence gives me the wigs.
I didn't choose a person. It's not a monster. It's just plain old mortality. The fear of being subject to death. We all have to experience it. The glory of it is most of us never know when it's going to take us. And for those of us who have become less fortunate sometimes and are given a time frame of when our life will end, has to be absolutely dreadful. So this week I'm wigging out on the sorrow that is knowing you're going to die soon and just waiting on it. AKA poor Ford. And that's the only time that I'm going to say it. Poor Ford.
Yeah, totally agree.
Slayer predictions. Next episode. It's a Giles-centric episode.
Ooh.
Which helps connect those moments from Halloween that we've been seeing. So all your questions are going to be answered.
Oh, thank God.
That's going to help prelude a lot. That's the biggest breadcrumb I can give you. But the next episode is entitled The Dark Age.
Ooh. Oh. Well, if it's Giles-centric, And it has to do with some things that have been revealed that I'm going to assume we're going to travel into Giles' past, and it's not going to be the positive energy flowing. So that's my prediction.
Well, I'm excited for you to watch it. You're gonna like it. I like it a good bit. It's a random, weird little episode, but it's fun. And I think you're gonna be like, oh shit. So I can't wait to come back and talk about it next time.
Yeah.
I did want to give a shout out to Elon for writing in to tell us, quote, I just adore your podcast. Your dynamic as heshties and podcasters has intermingled so well. You have really become professional quickly with your recordings. I can't say enough about how this has become my favorite Buffy podcast. You are very unique, and I can feel your passion through your episodes. It brings me joy to see them pop up on my Spotify feed, end quote. And I thought that was really sweet that they messaged us to say that. Thank you for that. That is the best thing for me to hear, because even though I'm just here hanging out with my best mate, I appreciate that we are making people in the Buffyverse happy and excited by our content. Being here is a reward as a Buffy fan, and I'm happy to be doing this, which is a good point to make. I love interacting with everyone on social media and in the emails, and I haven't gotten too many emails about anything, and I'm hoping those will come further down the line. But as it says in our outro, if you guys would like to discuss Buffy, our coverage of an episode or something from an episode, anything of that nature, do feel free to message us. We would love to share your perspective in our recordings and give you guys views on the show, or, you know, anything that we're talking about.
Let's have a conversation.
Yes. So send us your perspectives. That brings us to the end of Lie to Me. I know everyone listening has to love this episode, but I want to know, how do you guys feel about Ford? Do you agree with his mindset of calling the shots on his death? Do you feel bad for him? Let us know. Stick around for the outro to find out where to contact us, and also offer your Shining Slayer and what gave you guys the weekly wigs. We will, as always, catch you back here next week for another episode of Buffy. Until then, stay safe, take care, and don't join any vampire cults.
Please.
What happened?
We're stuck in a basement.
Buffy?
She's not stuck in the basement.
Hey, well, I delivered. I handed her to you.
Yes, I suppose you did.
So, what about my reward?
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Buffy on Revamped. Remember to join us next week for a new episode release as we continue our journey through Sunnydale. We also would like to hear from you, so share your thoughts. Discuss with us your perspectives on this or previous week's episodes by following us on Instagram and sending us a DM at revamped_rewatch podcast.
Or by emailing us at revampedrewatchpod@gmail.com. Additionally, we will be choosing one of your messages to shout out in an upcoming episode release. And don't forget, if you're looking for a friend and some unsolicited advice for the times when life feels out of orbit, go follow Life in Retrograde Podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time, the Earth is definitely doomed. This podcast is dedicated to the Buffyverse, to its fans, and my sister, Tiffany Dawn Pearson.